Well, whoops. Where did I go? Uh, no, no. Well, good evening, damn fam. And how are you today? I'm hearing myself in the background here somewhat. Uh, let's see if I can fix that before we keep going. There we go. Ah, good evening, damn fam. How are you today? How is your mental health this evening? Welcome to the Ontario Liberal Leadership Debate live-ish viewing party. A little bit deferred. The debate started at 7 o'clock, but that's okay. We're all here together, and it seems that we've all agreed to delay our gratification a little bit. So we're going to have a good time today. There are five candidates who are going to be debating today. This is the first of what I assume will be several debates. The other days have not been announced yet. We have five candidates. We have Navdeep Bains, Stephanie Bowman, who is the most recent to enter the race, Lee Fairclough, who is a sitting MPP, Eric Lombardi, and Dylan Mirando. I believe Stephanie Bowman is also a sitting MPP in this race. Let's see. Says here that the registration fee for candidates was $150,000, and the cutoff date for applications to be submitted was July 31st. It says here, following a March 2023 constitutional amendment that ended the party's use of delegated leadership conventions, the contest is conducted via an online preferential ballot open to all party members registered by the 7th of September 2026 cutoff date. So if you are in Ontario and you would like to vote in this leadership race, you need to apply for membership with the Ontario Liberal Party by September 7th. Results will be determined by a weighted point system, allocating 100 points to each provincial electoral district, distributed proportionally to candidates based on first preference votes, alongside 50 points per recognized student club and 5 points per recognized women's club. If no candidate achieves 50% of total points on the initial count, the lowest ranked candidate is eliminated, and their supporters' second choice preferences are redistributed until a candidate secures a majority. Let's see, what else do we have here with regard to this? This follows, of course, the resignation of Bonnie Crombie as a Liberal Party leader on January 14th, 2026. MPP John Fraser, who had previously served as interim leader from 2018 to 2020 and 2022 to 2023, was nominated by the Ontario Liberal Caucus to serve once again as interim leader. On May 8th, no, sorry, on April 21st, Dylan Mirando announced his candidacy. On May 8th, MPP Lee Fairclough declared her candidacy. On May 9th was when we had the Scarborough Southwest by-election Liberal nomination meeting that ended up in the brouhaha with Nate Erskine-Smith. On May 25th, former federal cabinet minister Navdeep Bains declared his candidacy. On May 28th, MPP Rob Suryanek declared his candidacy. On June 9th, Eric Lombardi declared his candidacy. On June 25th, Nate Erskine-Smith announced that he would no longer be a leadership candidate. On July 5th, Rob Surjanek also announced he was suspending his campaign. And on July 31st, Stephanie Bowman and Vikram Handa declared their candidacies. Kanda had not yet officially been qualified by the party. And on August 7th, Handra announced his withdrawal from the contest. And of course, we have the first leadership debate online here. As we mentioned, September 7th will be the deadline to join the Liberal Party. The voting period will begin on November 9th, and the voting period will close on November 20th with the announcement of who is the new leader on November 21st. On stage tonight, we'll have Navdeep Bains, who was once the Federal Minister of Innovation and Science and Industry from 2015 to 2021. He was the MP for Mississauga-Malton from 2015 to 2021, and the MP for Mississauga-Brampton South from 2004 to 2011. He's a business executive at CIBC and Rogers Communications in his past. Stephanie Bowman is the MPP for Don Valley West from 2022 until the present. She's the Liberal critic for finance also since 2024, the Liberal deputy House leader and critic for the Treasury Board, interprovincial trade tariffs, and international trade from 2025 on till now. She was a board member of the Bank of Canada from 2018 to 2021 and senior vice president of Scotiabank from 2014 to 2017. Her campaign slogan is "Ready for What's Next." Mr. Bain's campaign slogan is "Let's Lead Again." Not sure I like things that have "again" in it. Lee Fairclough is the MPP for Etobicoke Lakeshore since 2025, Liberal critic for hospitals, addictions and homelessness and mental health since 2025, the president of St. Mary's General Hospital in Kitchener from 2019 to 2022, and the senior vice president of clinical care at the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto. Her campaign slogan is "Fighting for a Better Ontario." Eric Lombardi, he's a financial technology sector management consultant, the chair of Build Toronto, and the founder of More Neighbours Toronto. His campaign slogan is "Own the Future." And Dylan Mirando is the former policy advisor to Premiers Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne, Deputy Director of Policy in the Prime Minister's Office of Justin Trudeau. He is the head of strategy and government affairs for Siemens Healthineers and a Green Party candidate in the 2008 federal election. And his campaign slogan is "The Future Starts Here." So, with that, kits and cubs, we are going to go to the debate. It's being moderated by Tina Yazdani of the Trillium. Excellent journalist doing excellent reporting. I'm very happy for her that she is having this opportunity. And without any further ado, let's bring you to the debate stage and let's see what these candidates have in store. This is the first time that we are going to get to see them, and given that the qualification period and all of that just recently closed, this is a debate that is happening fairly early on in the contest. So give an opportunity pretty early on, let's say, to form some initial opinions on the candidates and maybe point out to figure out to you the two or three that might have more potential for you, and an initial triage. Of course, you don't make a final decision tonight. Of course, there's lots of campaign left to have, but it gives you an idea. Maybe it gives you a chance to make a preliminary ranking, and who you are interested in hearing more from, and who you might be a little skeptical if you heard more from. So with that, let's go to the 2026 Ontario Liberal Leadership Debate. Here we have, and not sure it's indicated from where it is being held, but happy viewing. I'll probably interrupt from time to time during the show to make a couple of comments, but let's have some fun. Just see that everything is lined up. Everything is okay. Here we go.
Good evening and welcome to the first Ontario Liberal Leadership Debate. Tonight, 5 candidates vying to be the party's next leader will take the stage to debate their visions for the future of the party and the province. From left to right, we have Lee Fairclough, Eric Lombardi, Navdeep Bains, Stephanie Bowman, and Dylan Mirando. I'm Tina Yazdani, and I will be moderating tonight's debate. The candidates have been given time limits tonight, and it is my job to keep an eye on the clock and make sure to stick to them. They have been chosen based on a draw on the order that they will be speaking. They've agreed to the format and the rules, and they know the general topics that we'll be debating, but none of the questions have been shared in advance. I prepared tonight's questions along with a selection of questions submitted by Liberal Party members. So let's get right to it. We're going to begin with opening statements, and we'll begin with Lee Fairclough. Over to you.
Bonsoir. I'm Lee Fairclough, and as the MPP for Etobicoke Lakeshore, I hold Doug Ford to account every day. I've been traveling across this province to nearly 80 ridings. Everywhere I go, people are ready for change. They have had enough of this government. Whether it's Doug Ford's obsession with being the mayor of Toronto instead of premier, or the investment in a luxury jet, it is just so out of touch with the affordability pressures that people are feeling. Sorry, is everything okay? Yeah? Okay. I grew up in rural Bruce County, and I learned from a young age that if you see something that needs to change, you step up and you help it to happen. I left a career as the president of a hospital because I could not stand by any longer and watch what Doug Ford was doing to our healthcare system. Now, I'm a team builder, and I fight for what matters. And I learned that as an athlete, playing rugby for the Canadian women's rugby team. I learned to work hard. We set goals together and to win. And when we lost, we got up, reflected, and we got back out on the field. Politics is a team sport. And in 2022, when I ran in my riding for the first time, we lost. But we got back up, we rebuilt, and we turned that conservative riding by 4,000 votes. Now, as Premier, I would return to a focus on healthcare and education. I would address affordability for families and young people head on, and I would make sure that we have an economy that works in every part of this province, including the distinct considerations in rural and northern Ontario. It's time for serious government in Ontario again. Il est temps pour un gouvernement sérieux. I am the right leader for this moment. Join us. Let's get back out on the field.
Lombardi, you're up next. You have 2 minutes.
My name is Eric Lombardi, and I believe Ontario can still win. But we're at a critical juncture. We can no longer fully trust our relationship with America. Risks are expanding globally, and emerging technology offers the promise of incredible progress, yet threatens us with a future that looks a bit dystopic. But Ontario should have hope, because we have every advantage we need to persevere through these challenges. Talented and hardworking people, land, resources, energy, industry, and institutions that we can make better. But decades of governing for the short term has left this good hand harder to play. Since 2000, we've had one of the weakest economies in the developed world. Had we grown as before, paychecks would be $20,000 higher. We would pay less taxes and have more left over for better public services and infrastructure. Meanwhile, the promise of a middle-class life built on paychecks from ordinary work and home ownership has practically vanished for a generation. And public services are simply no longer living up to the standards that Ontarians expect. Doug Ford's government has been pretty bad, but Liberals, we have to be honest with ourselves because voters have rejected our party in 3 consecutive elections. Voters are looking to us for change, but they're not looking for a change back. We can't let nostalgia for last decade's Liberal governments hold us hostage to the past. And that's why I'm focused on the future, on building a competitive economy, a capable government, and an ambitious Ontario. And these things, they're not platitudes to me. I'm the only candidate on this stage who's put forward solutions in a comprehensive and costed platform. Because to me, that's doing the work and respecting the intelligence of voters and our members. After 3 consecutive defeats, I'll show you that change can be possible with new voices.
Thank you, Eric Lombardi. Up next, we have Navdeep Bains. Navdeep, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Tina. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un honneur et un privilège pour moi d'être ici ce soir. Je voudrais remercier mes collègues aussi. It really is a pleasure to be here this evening to talk about a number of things. But first of all, I want to talk about my parents who came to this beautiful province over 50 years ago. My father, cabinet maker, my mom worked in a factory, and they were able to make ends meet. They were able to live a good quality life, and they were able to retire with dignity because of this province. This province provided them with so many opportunities. And the same applies to me. I went to a public school in the region of Peel. I had the good fortune of attending universities in Toronto and Windsor. I also got my first job as an accountant at Ford Motor Company in Oakville in the automotive sector. I had the privilege of teaching graduate students at Waterloo. And to top it all off, I had the honor of being in the federal cabinet as a son of a cabinet maker. That's only possible in Ontario. That's the Ontario deal. No matter who you are, where you come from, you have every opportunity to succeed and get ahead. The reality is, that's not the case today. People are working harder and falling further and further behind. That's because Doug Ford and the Conservative government have abandoned the fight on their end of the deal. They're not there for people when it comes to good quality jobs, or reliable health care, or an affordable home in a safe neighborhood, or a school that does right by your kids. And I'm running to restore that deal. I've got the executive experience as the federal cabinet minister and in the private sector. And I know how to rebuild a party. I did so federally from third to first. Look, tonight you'll see and you'll hear that this province has so much promise, so much potential. Let's get to work.
Thank you, Navdeep Bains. Stephanie Bowman, over to you.
Thank you, Tina. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Bowman. Je m'appelle Stephanie Bowman. Je suis la députée de Don Valley West. I'm a mom, a chartered accountant, a former banking executive, a community leader, and I now have the privilege of serving Don Valley West as the MPP. I'm running to lead the Ontario Liberal Party because I believe the party needs a stronger foundation so we can earn back the trust of Ontarians and build a stronger Ontario that works for everybody. The world is changing. People are worried. They're worried about their children, and they're worried about their children's futures. They feel that the ground underneath them has shifted, that the foundations are crumbling. And we can't bring back the past. As the Prime Minister said, nostalgia is not a strategy. We must build stronger. We need to build a strong foundation to protect what matters most to people here in Ontario. But to do that, we need to build a strong foundation for our Ontario Liberal Party, because that will allow us to lead again and make sure that we are able to provide the opportunities for people to get ahead. As members of the Ontario Liberal Party, we must focus on what we need to do to build that strong foundation. And my experience has prepared me to lead that work. I spent more than 25 years in leadership roles at some of Canada's most trusted financial institutions. I helped them build what they needed to succeed. As a senior executive at Scotiabank and a partner at EY, I led large, complex teams, diverse teams, to solve complex problems. I came with solutions to help execute on a plan and deliver real results. I was able to make the tough decisions and work with a team to do those things together. My service on the board of the Bank of Canada allowed me to see those trusted institutions that we rely on and that we need to build a prosperous economy together.
Thank you, Stephanie Bowman. And our final candidate tonight, Dylan Miranda, your 2 minutes starts now.
I played rugby growing up, just like Lee. The difference is, she was really good at it. I wasn't. I played because I loved the sport, and I wanted to hang out with my buddies. Unfortunately, my buddies weren't naturals either. So for our first 2 seasons, we barely won a game. Then year 3 arrived. The players on the field didn't change. The coach didn't change. The drills didn't change. But we were tired of losing, and we were determined to do something about it. So when we got knocked down, we got up quicker. When we went in for a tackle, we hit harder. And we got better working as a team. And guess what happened in that 3rd season? We won every single game. Ontario Liberals are tired of losing. We're tired of watching Doug Ford plunder our public services. And we're going to do something about it. We're going to grow our party. We're going to beat Doug Ford. And we're going to restore competency to Queen's Park. I know how to do that. I've served 2 premiers and a prime minister. I was at the table for childcare and dental care and tax cuts for small businesses. I know how to win, and I know how to govern. And my team knows how to win and govern. And our promise to you is this: we're going to use every tool in the toolbox. We're going to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to build up our party and build up our province. Join us.
Thank you, Dylan Miranda. All right, let's get straight to the first topic. It's
All right, let's take a little pause there and look at those individual candidates here. Had some comments from the chat there, starting with Leaf Flare Clow, uniquely Jillian. She sounds quite articulate indeed. There is an issue of right off the bat telegenics for all 5 of these candidates. They really, really, really are going to have to work on. The starting talking like this gets has a little bit of an impression of boo, I'm going to come and scare you. So you might not want that. Unfortunate that there seemed to be something on the side that distracted her, but that actually kind of helped in the end because your delivery after that was a little smoother. Um, Pretty good sort of opening statements. The first four, you know, I'm missing something here in these statements to come and hook me, in pretty much all of them. Eric Lombardi, again, some comments here. I don't know much about these people, but thumbs down on this guy from a Kit Bucky. Uniquely Jillian, not sure what I think of this fellow yet. And then, okay, Bucky, I'm with you. Indeed. Um, Again, there's a major telegenics issue on this one. Coming from the tech sector, there's some verbiage in there that's a little bro-like. The confidence in the delivery is not there as it needs to be. This is a job interview, right? So I was looking for people to show up and have a little energy. It's like, hello, Ontario. I'm Philippe Fairclough, right? And show that they're excited to be there, whatnot. And I didn't see that, so there must be a lot of nerves going on. But there was no very strong, particular first impression. Navdeep Bains, some of the best use of French that seems to be an issue. As a francophone, I really appreciate it when somebody can deliver more than just one sentence in French. Very clear, very articulate, no problem there. Again, um, interesting speaker, good pace. Um, again, I need more dynamics in the voice, right? I just need more dynamics. I need more going on in the face. Don't need you to be a cartoon character, but I need a little more going on in the face for me to be pulled in. Stephanie Bowman, again, same thing. A little bit of French in there. Very nice to that. Be there, not as much as Navdeep Bains. Again, very sort of boilerplate statements. Again, would like to see more energy. The last candidate, Dylan Mirando, um, actually, hold on, I forgot to go to how much there. She's nervous here with regard. I'm not sure too, but I'm guessing that might be Stephanie Bowman at this point. Um, Kit Saucy, it's nerve wracking being up there and trying to hype yourself up. Yeah, it is. Bucky, these openers are so important. Every candidate should be able to nail it. She is not. Um, Go like this, and later on, she's finding her stride. Yes, nervous as you should be able to memorize a 2-minute speech, says Kit Kat. Kit Saucy, this is the part where most people will judge a leader. The opening, it's the way you get the vibe of the individual. Indeed. Practice, practice, practice. Kat goes for this person here. This guy does not seem nervous at all. I'm going to guess that might be Navdeep here. So people asking there, yeah. So when you're saying this guy has that, or this girl, this lady, or something, be precise with the names, because where they come in time is sometimes after they speak, and that makes it a little clearer for those watching here. So the two women are the only sitting MPPs. Yes, that is correct. Eric Lombardi sounded a little too slick. Says uniquely Jillian. Linda M. I like the analogy Dylan made to preserving and turning around a losing team into champions. Exactly. That was the thing that stuck out to me. He had language that had a hook of some kind for me to pull me in. Again, would have loved more dynamism in that. If you're going to go that, then maybe give me a little bit more of the coach that's rallying, that type of thing. But yes, of the content of what people were saying, his was the most interesting by far. Kit Elaine goes, the first guy, that's Eric Lombardi, was a no. Jenny Snyder, instantly a no for Eric. Uniquely Jillian, Dylan presented himself well too. There we go, Cat Dylan. Okay, so there we go. So those are the initial impressions. Right now, if I had to make a decision right now based on openings, unfortunately, I would probably remove Eric Lombardi. There are some just some basic telegenics issues that it's not happening for him. It's not happening for him, and the learning curve might be a little steep on that one. Just saying. Has a very interesting entry point that's different from everybody else because he doesn't come from a political background, but not sure. Not sure. Yes, and of course, and the pitch. Join us. All right, so let's go back in there and let's get to the questions and let's see how the candidates do. Not abnormal that there would be nerves in the first question, but again, I used to do this every now and then, right? Work with people and train them for debates or scrums or stuff like that. You need to start a debate with energy, 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 right? You're not performing for the room, you're performing for the person at home. Energy. Um, so there's a little of that missing, but hopefully over the course of the evening, they will liven up a little bit. Right? Nobody wants to come out of the starting gate and stumble. So, you can understand that there's some nervous energy. Fortunately, right now, they are just competing for the attention of party members. Not sure how many people, the general public, will be watching this. But these are skills whoever ultimately gets picked is going to need to really get better at if they're going to compete against Mr. Folksy down the line because he's got that stuff down pat. All right, let's get down to the first question.
On the issue of leadership, the Ontario Liberals went from forming government for 15 years to finishing third in 3 consecutive elections. Many Ontarians who once voted Liberal no longer do. What makes you different from former Liberal leaders that have tried and failed to rebuild the party and take on Doug Ford? You'll have 60 seconds to respond. Eric Lombardi, we'll start with you.
If we want to win government again, we need to inspire, we need to grow our tent, and we need to operate with greater excellence. Our past leaders, you'll hear, they didn't have a seat in the House. But the reality is, we did not put risks and make ideas a center of our campaign. Ontarians get inspired by Liberal leaders. They don't look to us for the same things as Conservatives. And so when we don't do the work to tell them where we stand, where we drive the issues that matter to people, where we reflect on the systems that are no longer working for them, people can't tell that we're operating with authenticity, and voters know an inauthentic politician from a kilometer away. So if we want to win again, we have to first attract talented candidates that Ontarians can imagine can serve them well in government. We've got to operate our technology and infrastructure so that we're on the ground across the province and able to deliver our presence everywhere. So people know that our party sees them, hears them.
Thank you, Eric Lombardi. That's time. Stephanie Bowman, over to you. What makes you different from other Liberal leaders who have failed to take on Doug Ford?
Thank you, Tina. I put my name on the ballot in the 2022 election, and my team and I had a plan. We had a plan to win. And even when Doug Ford put Mark Saunders, the former police chief, up against me, we just kept working that plan and we won. And the Ontario Liberal Party can't wait for the next election to rebuild. We need to start now, listening to our members across this whole province, urban, rural, suburban, the north, and listen to what they have to say about what our party needs. We need to make sure we are nominating candidates early. We need to make sure we give every riding association a chance to win by giving them the resources and the supports that they need. We need to make sure that we are putting forward ideas that show that we know how to deliver economic prosperity for this province. And we need to show that we will respect every taxpayer dollar. And that's what I've been fighting and talking about since being elected in 2022 at Queen's Park. Holding this government to account every single day and fighting for our constituents, in my constituents and people across the province.
Thank you, Stephanie Bowman. Dylan Miranda, over to you. What makes you different from former Liberal leaders that have tried and failed to rebuild the party and take on Doug Ford?
The milk has soured on Doug Ford. And shortly, it's going to be chunky. So our job is not to oppose Our job is to propose. We need to become an alternative to this government. We need to show that we are ready to govern, that we have a team that knows how to govern. And let's not forget, for 42 years, Liberals thought all they needed was a seat in the House. For 42 years, Liberals thought a victory was going to come to them. But they didn't win until a 38-year-old leader built a team that inspired confidence in Ontarians. And my hunch is that we need that same kind of leadership again.
Thank you, Dylan Morando. Lee Fairclough, you're up next. What makes you different from former Liberal leaders that have tried and failed to rebuild the party?
It's time for serious government in Ontario. Unlike leaders of the last 8 years, I have a seat, and I am a sharp contrast to Doug Ford. And I also know it is critical that we rebuild our party because voters are looking for us to be ready. The first thing I would do as leader is to unify our party. I'd invite all these candidates on this stage and their teams to be part of our future to build against the Conservatives. I would make sure that we are building from the grassroots up, working with local associations, our rural commissions and northern commissions and young Liberals. And I would show up as a leader in communities with them so Ontarians knew how we would solve any problem. I would make sure we found talent quickly and give them lots of runway to run. And I would create a culture where every voice in our party is valued and modernize our party. I've put a policy out with more details on this.
That's time. Thank you, Lee Fairclough. And finally, Navdeep Bains, what makes you different from former Liberal leaders that have tried and failed to rebuild the party and take on Doug Ford?
Well, thank you very much for your question there, Tina. And just to build on what Lee said, we need a united front. And as Dylan also highlighted, we got to focus on not what we stand against, but what we stand for. And I demonstrated that at a very young age when I was first elected at the age of 26. And I recall at that time I was told, don't put your name on a flyer. People may not vote for you. I did not listen to that advice. I went and knocked on every door. I went out there and told people what I believe in. And people are looking for that authentic leadership. And I have a track record of winning. I won 5 elections. And that enabled me to understand what works and what doesn't work. And what works is you need to build a strong team of candidates, and you need to have a comprehensive plan. And that's what I will do as a leader. I've done it before federally. I took the Liberals from 3rd to 1st, and I plan to do that provincially as well.
Thank you, Navdeep Bains. I'm going to open the floor up now for rebuttals and open debate, and I'll kick it off with a question.
All right, so before we get to the next question, again, there are certain candidates in there that directly answered the question about how it is that they were different. I'm not sure if they did. I mean, there's some of them that spoke about the qualities that they bring. See, in this case, I found that Dylan had some interesting content, but it wasn't directly related to the question. Or if it was supposed to be related to the question, he didn't frame it in terms of I. Speaking about how he's different. But if I'm having a question like that, I would talk a little bit about, I would go there. I would talk about how certain previous candidates that took on Doug Ford, what I thought they didn't bring to the potluck. And then I would make it very clear that those are qualities that I do have. So I didn't see. So yes, Kid Bucky, generally they all did better on that question. Absolutely. But would like, again, when I'm listening to a debate, I'm listening to the question and I'm asking myself, is this a policy question? Is this a personality question? Is this, right? What type of question is this? What are they looking to get from me on this one? And how are you different is a personality and a vision question, right? And you can also use it to speak to your competences, right? So you can speak to your strong suits and how you can put them to use for the betterment of the party. And if those were strong suits that you have that are objectively, or that you believe to be better than those who passed by previously, or if they have the same skills, but you're just going to use them in a different way, a more thoughtful way, more strategic way, th- that's the time where you mention this. So again, there's a part of this is a know yourself question as well. And I learned some things about the candidates, but again, I would like them to go deeper. And once again, here I'm seeing some comments from in the chat there about some of the physical gestures when it comes to Leaf Faircloth specifically. Yeah, that's not going to last an entire campaign. That needs to um, come down a bit. Kid Saucy going, I picture Douglas as Michael Caine in Miss Congeniality. He would make an excellent pageant coach. Oh, but thank you. That's actually the second time I've heard that. That's really weird. And if you, and then a couple more times if I count the drag queens that asked me to coach them for pageants. Maybe I have another career. Who knows? All right, let's get back to the debate and let's see what's going to happen if we mix it up a little bit. Kid Lori, and also Douglas can dance and sing. Dance and sing it up and do your thing. All right, and our thing today is political junkiism. So let's get back to the debate. Come on, back on screen. There you go.
How important do you think it is to have a seat at Queen's Park to effectively lead? Just raise your hand and I'll come to you. I'll go to Dylan Mirando first.
Because it's not fair that he keeps getting this question. In the next general election, when a young mom or dad goes into the voting booth, they're not going to ask, does the leader have a seat? They're going to ask, does this leader have what it takes to make my kids' education better? Does this leader have what it takes to make my parents' healthcare better? Does this leader have what it takes to protect my job? So if that's the ballot box question in the next general election, it needs to be the ballot box question in this leadership race. Which one of us has the tools in the toolbox to deliver those kinds of results in government? That, I think, is the important question.
I'm going to go to Leaf Faircloth. She had her hand up.
Consistently hearing from Liberals and others across Ontario that we can't keep doing the same thing. We've tried it multiple times now and it has not worked. And if we have a compelling candidate that has leadership experience, that has a seat in the legislature, it will make the difference. And I talk to people that have been previous members about that. There is an energy in that legislature that then translates into the way that you go out and talk to media and the way that you go out and connect across the province and bring those local perspectives back. We have to try to do this differently. And I believe I'm the leader that can meet that moment for us.
I'm going to go to Eric Lombardi. I saw his hand next.
We need to dominate the debate and the narrative about what it means to offer a future for Ontario. And we also need to do our best to grow the tent and talk to voters from other parties who might have not considered us in the last election. And so we need to be reaching out to our neighbors who are conservative and New Democrat and ensuring that they feel like they can have a comfortable place in our party. And I sincerely believe that there are disenfranchised conservative voters, many of whom voted for Mark Carney in the last election. And we should be doing our best to bring the Conservatives down from 40% to 30%. And that's a majority government for the Liberals.
Stephanie Bowman, I saw your hand. Do you think that you need a seat at Queen's Park to effectively lead this party?
You know, Tina, I was with Stephen, I was with Bonnie in the last 2 races, and I want to first of all thank them for their contributions. Stephen got us out of debt, and Bonnie brought us to official party status. The problem is, people didn't know their names on the ballot box because it's very hard to get the public's attention when you can't get the media's attention. And when you don't have a seat in the legislature, I find that that was a real challenge for them. So we need to make sure that our voices, that Ontario Liberal voices, are being heard. And having a seat in the legislature allows us to actually talk about what we would do if we were in government. It allows us to hold Doug Ford and his government to account every single day and to fight for the issues that matter, like a youth career fund, which I tabled at Queen's Park, or a small business tax cut, or a middle income tax cut. Those are ideas that we can debate and propose in a meaningful way when you've got a seat at Queen's Park.
Navdeep, would you like to comment on this?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we all recognize that change is in the air. People are tired and frustrated with this government, and they're looking for a viable alternative. And that's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing to restore that Ontario deal, which is about making sure people have a real chance at success. They want a premier that wakes up in the morning thinking about healthcare and education. And the sad reality is Doug Ford does not do that. And we need someone to challenge him on his economic record as well. Why do we have the highest youth unemployment rate in the country? These are the kind of questions I would pose to him and challenge him, because I have a track record in government. When I was the Minister of Industry, during my tenure, in the first 4 years, over 1 million jobs were created. That's what people are looking for. Someone who can take on Doug Ford on his, I would say, abysmal track record when it comes to the economy, but also challenge him in saying, look, healthcare and education are also good for the economy as well. And that's what I plan to do.
Lee, go ahead.
It's been interesting this last year, and especially in the legislature. I mean, we have a premier right now that's not bringing us back until the end of October. And so that time when we have been sitting has been so critical. To be in tune with all of the bills that are passing, being able to really oppose this government, go toe-to-toe every day where we can. I think it's critical that our future leader has those insights, sees the dynamic, and most importantly, the leader can also still travel this province, can still reach out into the far north, go up to Marathon, go up to Timmins, go down to Sarnia, understand people's perspectives, and challenge back when they return to the legislature. Hold those individual members accountable. How can people be, I sit there all the time as somebody who grew up in rural Ontario, and I think, how can the Conservative members be passing this bill? We need a leader with a seat that can call that out directly and can relate to all parts of Ontario.
Let's go to Eric and then Dylan.
But we have to remember, at the end of the day as Liberals, that Ontarians are looking towards us to offer solutions to the problems that they see in their everyday life. The provincial government is the government that affects our lives the most. And so that's critical for us to go and tell people, what is it that we stand for? What is interesting and relevant about why they should elect us in the future? This is critical for us to know and voters to know that we're there with them. We see the same problems they do. We share the same experiences, and we have the same desires for the future of Ontario. And if we're not clear-eyed about offering that inspiration to people, we'll give them no reason to pay attention to the things that we have to offer.
Dylan Rando, go ahead.
I'm going to make a couple points. One is, in the same way a caucus member can travel the province, nothing stops a leader who doesn't have a seat from standing in the lobby of Queen's Park and being scrummed. And if it's a compelling leader with a compelling plan, they're going to get scrummed every day they're standing in that lobby. Secondly, Stephen had a seat in Parliament. Stephen was a minister. Bonnie was a parliamentarian federally. Bonnie was a mayor. It wasn't a question of profile. It was a question of plan and readiness to govern in the eyes of the electorate. And every time we say we lost the last election because our leader didn't have a seat, we're breaking our trust with the voters. The voters know why they voted for us and didn't vote for us, and it had nothing to do with the status of our leader's seat. So if we want to regain the trust of voters, we have to first and foremost be honest with them.
We only have about 2 minutes left in this open debate, and I want to ask one more question, and it's about the ideology of the party. Where should the Ontario Liberal Party be on the political spectrum at this moment in time? Center left, centrist, center right? I think I saw Eric's hand up first, but also I appreciate everyone's being polite, but you can also jump in. And if it's getting too heated, I will stop you guys. So Eric, go ahead.
This political spectrum left-right thing is not the right lens. Ontario has problems. We have to offer solutions. Sometimes those solutions will sound right of center and marketplace. Sometimes they'll sound left of center and require the role of government to intervene. The goal that what Ontarians want to see and expect from the Liberal Party is that we're pragmatic and that we look at the problems for what they are. And that has to be the shining light that we're following as Liberals.
Go ahead, Lee.
It was amazing to me when I arrived in the legislature as a new member to see the impact of not having party status for years. Because you had the opposition and you had the Conservative government, and they were so far apart. Liberals are in that unique spot where we can bring that pragmatism, those real-world solutions to problems. We can hear other perspectives. And I do think, as I've talked to people, they count on us to be in the center, to be that bridge between that polarization that is happening out there.
Let's go to Navdeep Bains.
Look, I've traveled this province like my colleagues here, and I can tell you the message is very clear. They want the Liberal Party to focus on the economy. Cost of living and affordability is the #1 issue I hear about. People are struggling to make ends meet. And as I mentioned, 1 in 5 young people cannot find a job. And we lag behind other provinces when it comes to growth. That's got to change. That's why I say we got to lead again. That's how you restore the Ontario deal. If you have a strong economy, then you can make the investments for a reliable healthcare system. You can invest in education. And by the way, that's what Conservatives don't understand. They think it's one or the other. And this is where the Liberal Party is uniquely positioned to talk about these issues.
Does anyone want the last word? Go ahead.
Yeah, the Ontario Liberals have been fighting for good education, good healthcare, and good post-secondary education because we know those are the foundations of a strong economy. And that's what we've been fighting for at Queen's Park, that I've been fighting for since being elected in 2022. We know that we need to make sure that people have a strong foundation because it's been crumbling under this Doug Ford government. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to build a stronger foundation so that we are ready for what's next, so that our children are ready for what's next and can take advantage of all the opportunities and fantastic resources that we have here in this province.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie Bowman. Let's move on to the next segment. It will be a lightning.
All right, kids and cubs, let's take a little pause there and go over that segment. It started off with the question that how are you different than past leaders of the Ontario Liberal Party who failed to cut the mustard against Doug Ford? Dylan, I wish I could remember the last name off the top of my head. I will get them over eventually. Sorry here, kids and cubs. The video went a little fuzzy, so let's just fix that. There we go. Had a really good response to that. You know, sorry. The question was, does the leader of the party necessarily need a seat right away? And really lifted his hand, wanted to go first to try to establish the narrative that it is not absolutely necessary, given also that he doesn't have one at the moment. And it made some very good points. Lee Fairclough came in and gave a good counterpoint, really good rebuttal, stating that in a situation where things are close, it will make a difference because there's an energy in the legislature that that goes into everything else that you do, and you just can't manufacture that or create it when you're outside of it. Arabic Lombardi came out with needing to dominate the debate and growing the tent, try to reach out to other parties, which was a nice part. Sort of gave the impression in there that he might be a little more red, blue liberal on his leanings. So Stephanie Bowman showed that she's a good party person showed good respect to past leaders, but did uh, mention while showing some grace, talking about some of the experience and the things that she has proposed by being someone in the legislature. So saying, I've worked on these things and I've actually pushed these things, so I'm going to push them again as leader. Navdeep Bains came in and talked about, having to be a viable alternative. After that, the discussions sort of were around the subject, but not too much until we got to Dylan again, who really made some solid points about it not being the profile, considering that Bonnie Crombie and Stephen Del Duca did have profile. One was an MP for a while with the seat. Bonnie Crombie was a well-known mayor and a federal MP. He was more in the back rooms and that type of stuff. But the profile, you can have the profile, but if you don't have the plan, uh, profile is not going to help you much. Eric Lombardi then came up with a very good point. Linda said his first good point of the night about rejecting the left-right spectrum when the follow-up question began, where they see themselves on the left side spectrum, but being pragmatic, and there are certain solutions for certain things that might present more right and might present more left, and it's just you pick the thing that connects with the solution. And that was about, there's been a few references a little bit to Mark Carney a few times. They're trying to get some of that glow on. Stephanie Bowman was the first one to do it in her opening remarks, but you can see every now and then there's some hearkening to some of the things that Mark Carney has said federally that comes up here. Pragmatism would be one. And then again, in this debate, this portion, you get to Navdeep Bains when, of course, answering the question where he stands on the political spectrum, not directly answering, but talking about things, however, about cost of living and affordability and that types of things, which might give you the impression that he might be a little more on the left side of the party spectrum without actually stating it here. All right, let's go back into the debate and see what they've got next here for us. Kit Bucky stating here that Navdeep Bains sounds credible. That is not necessarily a surprise, actually, considering he is, like I said, a former federal politician and I believe very, very able organizer.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie Bowman. Let's move on to the next segment. It will be a lightning round. Each candidate will have 30 seconds or 1 to 2 sentences to answer the question. It'll be a finish the sentence question. So I'll ask the question. When it comes to connecting with voters, one thing the progressive conservatives have done right that the Liberals are still getting wrong is. Eric Lombardi, you're up first. You have 30 seconds or 1 to 2 sentences.
Being themselves and showing authenticity. I think we worry too much about communications and not in connecting with people.
Thank you, Eric Lombardi. Stephanie Bowman, when it comes to connecting with voters, one thing the progressive conservatives have done right that the Liberals are still getting wrong is.
We need to make sure our party is strong. We need to make sure that we call early elections and that we have candidates who are ready and willing to fight hard in every single riding across this province to win.
Thank you, Stephanie. Dylan Miranda, when it comes to connecting with voters, one thing the Conservatives have done right that the Liberals are still getting wrong is?
They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And that's what we do as Liberals. We get the job done.
Thank you, Dylan. Lee Fairclough, when it comes to connecting with voters, one thing the PCs have done right that the Liberals are still getting wrong is?
As we build as Liberals, we need to fundraise to make sure that we can achieve what we need to, because that is actually how we will be able to address the problems of Ontarians.
And finally, Navdeep Bains, when it comes to connecting with voters, one thing the PCs have done right that the Liberals are still getting wrong is?
When it comes to connecting with voters, we have to focus on the economy. That includes cost of living, jobs, and a growth plan that will help people prosper throughout the province.
Okay, thank you, Navdeep Bains. Let's move on now to the second topic on the issue of...
All right, Kits and Cubs, a little flash thing here. In that round, I would give that one to Eric Lombardi. Hands down. Being yourself and being able to show authenticity and connecting with people. I'm watching this debate and I'm seeing very little authenticity. And people being themselves. I'm seeing a lot of staging. I'm seeing a lot of packaging. I'm seeing a lot of things that are rehearsed not particularly well, or at least not rehearsed to be natural. But yeah, it's the showing authenticity. That was one of the things that worked for Mark Carney, right? He's a PhD in economics. He's a banker. He didn't, try to be the cool dad, right? He brought his geeky self to the party, and the time was right and the moment was right, and Canadians reacted positively to him. You have to be who you are. And there's some people in here that I've heard other people talk about them that, the way they talk about them, they are warm and charming. And when you talk to them, you feel like they're really listening. And I'm not seeing these personalities here. But yes, definitely the best answer there went to Eric Lombardi, and I did not understand Dylan's answer at all to that question. At all. Navdeep Bains' answer was probably the one that would probably be the most sellable in a general election campaign, but that's not necessarily where we are now in this process. However, again, I would. I need more. Again, when Lee Fairclough talked about fundraising, yes, conservatives do fundraising much better than the liberals, but what do they do better specifically, right? Um, so yeah, Lombardi got this one for me because yes, I did not connect at all with Stephen Del Duca. I did not connect at all with Bonnie Crombie. I did not get a feeling from either of those two that if there was a something that was of particular concern to me, that I would need to call up on the phone and absolutely ask a meeting, that they would be particularly moved by what it is that I would have to say or concerned. I never got that feeling. And when they talked, because like I said, there was just I didn't feel like I was getting a chance to get to know them. I thought I was getting a chance to know what they thought a version of a politician should look like, but it wasn't them. There was a lack of authenticity here. All right, let's go back to the debate. Let's see what we've got here as our next topic.
Of affordability. For many Ontarians, the cost of everyday life, from groceries to rent to insurance, is outpacing wages. If elected Premier, what would be the single most important thing your government would do in its first year to make life more affordable, and how would you pay for it? Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. We'll start with Dylan Mirando. Go ahead.
This one is for Cliff in Richmond Hill. Affordability is going to be my priority on day one. I worked in the Prime Minister's office during COVID. I saw how fast a government can work when it wants to work. The reason Doug Ford has delivered nothing on affordability for 8 years is because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about you. He cares about the boys in the back room. He cares about private jets. He cares about luxury hotels. But he doesn't care about delivering affordability now. That's going to be my priority. Higher wages, a tax cut, and more affordable services.
Thank you, Dylan Mirando. Navdeep Bains, what would you do to make life more affordable, and how would you pay for it?
Look, to make life more affordable, the number one issue I hear about when we talk about cost of living is the difficulties people are finding to pay for groceries. 1 in 4 people that visit the food bank actually have a job. How ridiculous is that? That 1 in 4 people that visit the food bank do what they're supposed to do, which is go to work, and they still can't make ends meet. So I would focus on a number of measures to help people make ends meet when it comes to paying for their groceries. One would be to increase consumer protections for surveillance practices that exist on pricing. Second would be to make sure we grow more here in Ontario. I was in Leamington, and I saw firsthand the greenhouses that exist there and the opportunities to grow more locally to help people afford groceries. And lastly, I would make sure we make changes to leases and property arrangements that exist to create more competition in this space. So these are specific measures to make sure that people can afford groceries, but ultimately affordability has many components to it, and I look forward to talking about that.
Thank you, Navdeep Bains. Stephanie Bowman, you're up next.
You know what, Tina? Doug Ford doesn't understand budgets, and he doesn't understand affordability. And he's not using your tax dollars wisely. We need to make sure that we are using those tax dollars to put money back into people's pockets. I've been talking at Queen's Park about a middle-income tax cut. I would deliver that. I've been talking about a small business tax cut that would help small businesses thrive in this province. Under this Doug Ford government, more small businesses are closing than are opening, and that's hurting our economy. I would make sure that we are building enough housing so that housing is affordable. I hear parents worried about their children. In fact, their children are moving out of the province because they can't afford a home here. We need to make sure that we are actually putting solutions forward to get homes built so that people can build their lives here. And I would make sure that young people can get their first job. I tabled a youth career fund that would actually help about 75,000 young people get their first job and help small and medium-sized enterprises. These are the kind of initiatives that you can
That's time.
put
Thank
forward.
you, Stephanie Bowman. Next, we will go to Eric Lombardi. How would you make life more affordable?
We have got to fix our broken housing system in Ontario. It's 30% of the average household's budget. And when we look at the last 20 years, the cost of housing relative to incomes for both rent and ownership have more than doubled. And that means reduced savings. That means less spending and less ability for people to take risks. So that means we have to do land use reform. It means we need to do permitting reform. It means we need to do building code reform to make housing more beautiful. And it means that we need to deliver a new deal to Ontario's municipalities so that they can pay for the infrastructure needs that they have and allow our housing system to enable young people to afford good lives and families. And so if we don't get this right, almost everything else in our economy suffers, because at the end of the day, people are not just nurses and teachers. They're people who need full lives, and a full life is lived in a good home, and we've got to fix it.
Okay, finally, Lee Fairclough, how would you make life more affordable?
I know that many of you are struggling, especially young people, and the proportion of your income that is going to your rent and your housing has only increased. And as the mom of teenage boys, when I go to the grocery store, I think all the time how difficult it is getting for people. And then I get really angry. And this is how I would pay for some of these changes I'm going to suggest. When I look at the waste of this government, investing in luxury jets, tunnels on the 401, and expense scandals. It's a disregard for what you are facing. I would make sure that I reverse the decision on OSAP so families knew that education was in reach for young people and see it as investment for them. I would make sure that we adjust the regulations to stop soaring rents at the moment and the increasing homelessness that we're seeing, especially among seniors. And I would make sure that there were jobs that also support for young people that were coupled with small and medium-sized businesses so that we can grow the economy and support the economy.
Thank you, Lee. I will open up the floor now to debate and rebuttals. Navdeep Bains, you already have.
Okay. That was thoroughly unimpressive. I am so sorry, but that was thoroughly unimpressive. I mean, points to Dylan Mirando for launching the first real comprehensive full attack on Doug Ford, but the portion of the question about what it is that he would do to address it wasn't there. Eric Lombardi spoke very eloquently about why housing is so important, but he didn't say what he would do to fix it. And I'm seeing that in a lot of these responses that they're pointing to problems that exist that need to be fixed and saying we need to address, or we need to, but how and what specifically? And that wasn't there. That was a little disappointing again, because there are certain questions in a job interview. Why do you want this job? What's your best quality? When can you start? That you should probably have answers for. You should probably have thought of. You can anticipate that those ones might be on the list. What would you do to make life more affordable is one that you could expect would be on the list. But nobody had a canned, rehearsed, packaged, powerful 1-minute answer. Doom, boom, boom, boom. I would do A, B, and C in order to address A, B, and C. Boom. Or the major problems that needed to be addressed is A, B, and C, but the most important of those ones is B, and I would address them by doing 1, 2, and 3. For a start. That's an answer. That comes and gets me at home. Makes me pay attention. I didn't see that. If you want to lead a party, clearly you have some ideas of what you want to do once you get into leadership. Share them. Share them. I'm seeing this comment here, none of these candidates have the oomph that is required to go after Ford. Yeah. The person I'm seeing it the most from is Dylan Miranda so far in the debate. But need more. Kid Grace, this is painful to watch. It's not. It's not the best. Kit Linda, well, finally, Lee provides concrete examples of OSET and rent controls. Yeah, there we have some of that. Hopefully, again, but I would like more. Like, what would you do with OSAP? What would you do? So, we need to work on better rent controls or more OSAP. Yeah. How much more and why and how much or how? Through what mechanism? Like, show me that you thought of it more than just at a surface level. You don't have to give me your 72-point plan, but let me know that you thought of it with a little depth. I'm just, ay, 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 ay. Kid Sussy going, I'm learning what not to do. Cassie going, Saucy, the federal NDP refused to take Wobb's advice at their convention in Winnipeg. Yes, indeed. Indeed. All right. Let's go back to the next bit here and see what they've got. Right now, I agree with Grace. This is a little painful. Hold on. Let's go back a little bit here. Oops, sorry. Get some cubs. It would appear that the video did not pick up. So let me go back here and just set up to the time. All right, there we go. And I have to say, also, as I'm watching this, Tina Yazdani is looking like she's having trouble staying awake. Number one rule of a debate: don't make the moderator fall asleep.
I will open up the floor now to debate and rebuttals. Navdeep Bains, you already have your hand up, so go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tina. Look, to build on what Eric said, I recall my own first experience, my wife and I, when we bought our first home. I landed a very good job when I had my co-op experience at Ford Motor Company of Canada. I think it was around $65,000. My wife worked for an accounting firm. She's a CPA like myself, and Stephanie as well. And we were able to stay with our parents and buy our first home. Like, that's how the deal was supposed to work. You go to school, you get a good job, you're able to make a down payment and afford a home or afford the rent. That reality is very different. So I would build on what Eric said to change that reality and restore that deal. That means reviewing our building code for sure, utilizing modern construction techniques, and also making sure that municipalities have that long-term framework that they need in order to build those homes. Because the housing market has collapsed by 35% under Doug Ford, and we need to change direction and we need to change course.
All right, let's go to Eric next.
We can't talk about affordability without talking about our lack of competition in our economy and the stagnation in productivity levels that we've seen for 2 decades. Productivity is really about how can you do more in the same amount of time to create more wealth out of it. And societies that don't have long-term productivity growth don't have resources to invest in public services or infrastructure. There's not competition for their labor to raise wages. And it's going to take a lot of effort to reform our systems in order to return growth to Ontario so people feel that rising standard of living once again. And that's critical to the understanding. And this goes right to the issue of the economy.
Go ahead, Dylan.
So one thing that I think is missing from this conversation right now, but it was in your question, is a sense of urgency. Folks cannot wait for support on affordability. I love building codes. I love housing supply. I love increased productivity. But that's not going to do anything for Cliff and Richmond Hill tomorrow. But if we cut taxes for the middle class, that will hit their pocketbook tomorrow. If we boost wages for PSWs and DSWs and ECEs and EAs, that's going to help their pocketbook tomorrow. And if we can decrease the cost of childcare, if we can decrease the cost of comprehensive mental health care, which is within the power of the provincial government, that's going to hit their pocketbooks tomorrow. So we need to act with a sense of urgency. And as I said before, when governments care, when governments want to do that, when governments recognize that the reward of political office is public service, not room service, they can deliver on affordability.
Part of the question was also, how would you pay for it? So anyone can jump in here, but those all sound great.
Yeah.
How would you pay for it? Go ahead,
If I
Navdeep.
may, look, it's very clear. It's about setting priorities. That's what I did a little while ago. It's highlighting the priorities on jobs, affordability, healthcare, and education. That means we wouldn't spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on self-promotional ads. I wouldn't spend over $200 million on a parking lot on Ontario Place. Just imagine if those funds went towards the priorities we highlighted. That's the choice in the upcoming election. Doug Ford is focused on his buddies. He's not focused on the well-being of the people of Ontario.
One thing I do really want to say is that we really do need to be thinking about good jobs and across this province. It was amazing to me when I visited the Northwest. They need 2,000 people to immigrate there today to be able to fill the jobs. The unemployment rate is close to zero. But municipalities need a partner in government. We need to be able to help to support the building of communities that will attract and bring people to those communities to live. Some of these things don't require more money. Some of them will, and there are so many opportunities with the current spending by this government that we need to redirect to these other parts of the province and create the kind of jobs and stability that families need right now.
Go ahead, Stephanie Bowman.
You know, we know there is no one simple answer to these challenges that people face, whether it's the cost of groceries, the cost of housing, the cost to send their kids to school. But we also know that this Conservative government has been wasting billions of dollars. I've been calling that out in the legislature. They spent $1 billion on private nursing agencies. They could have hired 3 times the number of nurses in our healthcare system if they'd spent that money in the public healthcare system. They've wasted over $1 billion on skills development fund. That money could be spent investing in Ontario to actually address the infrastructure backlog that we have in every single riding in this province and put people, including young people, to work, because that's what we need. We need the foundations of our infrastructure are crumbling. People see it around them all the time, and we need to make sure that we are building a stronger foundation so that we're ready for what's next. You know, the #1 job for men in Canada, truck drivers. In California, we've got driverless trucks already. That is going to come to Ontario. What are we doing now to make sure that those men and those women who drive trucks are ready for when their jobs disappear and they can still keep a roof over their head and put groceries on the table?
Let's go to Navdeep next.
Well, speaking of truck drivers, I met with Bob, who owns an independent trucking company, a small operator in Dryden. And usually to renew his commercial license, it would take a couple of days, maximum 48 hours. Now it takes well over 6 weeks. So he loses income, and the drivers are unable to earn income as well. That's an example of this government talking the talk on red tape, but they're actually adding red tape. These are the kind of measures that I'd also pursue above and beyond making investments to education and healthcare, real supports and real solutions for small businesses.
Eric Lombardi, you can have the last word.
We can't subsidize our way out of an affordability crisis. We have to build our way out. And governments don't create good jobs. They create the conditions for good jobs to be created. And we have to be able to distinguish the difference between those things. Because at the end of the day, we've put off the long-term needs of this province for too long.
Okay, thank you, candidates. We're going to move on to the next lightning round. Each candidate will again have 30 seconds or 1 or 2 sentences to finish the question. The question is, the biggest misconception about me in this leadership race is? So we're going to start with Dylan Mirando. The biggest misconception about you in this leadership race?
That I'm not going to win. I'm going to win.
Okay, I like that, nice and quick. Let's go next to Navdeep Bains.
Well, the biggest misconception is that people believe I'm a front runner. I've learned a long time ago not to take anything for granted and work hard. So again, the biggest misconception is never take anything for granted.
Okay, thank you, Navdeep Bains. Stephanie Bowman?
I would say the biggest misconception about me is that I've come to the party late. I've been at this work since I was elected in 2022. I've helped out in 7 by-elections and helped get Liberals elected, and that's what I'm going to do when I'm leader.
Eric Lombardi, the biggest misconception about you?
The ideas that I've put forward don't matter, but I know that they do. I know people are paying attention, and I know voters want to see more substance.
Thank you, Eric Lombardi and Lee Fairclough.
The biggest misconception about me is that I'm only about healthcare. And having worked in healthcare for so many years, I've worked across government and know as well so much about public finances. And in this job now, I have realized coming to Queen's Park just how much we need to do across every file of government, including the economy.
Okay, thank you, Lee Fairclough. Thank you to all the candidates. Speaking of healthcare, that is our next topic. The Ford government is spending record dollars on health, but the sector says funding has not kept up with inflation or population growth, and Ontarians are still facing long emergency room wait times, family doctor shortages, and concerns about access to care. What would you do differently from the Ford government, and what budget trade-offs would you make to fund your plan? Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. Stephanie Bowman, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Tina. Look, without a strong economy, we can't pay for healthcare. We can't pay for any of the services that people rely on. And under this Doug Ford government, we have seen healthcare crumble. We have seen ERs in rural communities close. We have seen wait times increase. We have seen more and more people treated in hallways. That's because this government has not got a plan. And I will not stand here and say that there is a single solution or that the solutions will be easy. We need to listen to the voices of doctors and nurses and PSWs and the janitors who work in hospitals to make sure that we are bringing forward creative solutions. For example, centralized referral. In the UK, they've got a system where your doctor gives you a referral and you go online and you can pick the doctor that's closest to you or the one that you got the best rating. We need to make sure that we are listening to the workers, the people who know what it takes. And in terms of funding, again, growing our economy is the #1 thing that we can do to pay for healthcare. Wasting taxpayer dollars.
That's time. Thank you, Stephanie Bowman. Lee Fairclough, you're up next.
I have consistently heard from people across Ontario that healthcare matters to them, and it matters to me. It's why I actually ran for office. And Doug Ford and the Conservatives, healthcare is not a priority to them. And I can tell you one thing I would stop right away that would stop the waste, which is paying 3 times as much for the same service in a private environment than in a public. That has got to stop. As Premier, I would bring a focus back to patients and the outcomes that they need. I would make sure that people can get access to team-based primary care. I would finish the job for this government. We need to make sure that dollars are being spent on keeping people well. I would prioritize access to mental health care for young people to get upstream on these issues. It is time for a government that prioritizes health care again, sees it as an investment in people, and sees it as an investment in our economic prosperity.
Thank you, Lee. Navdeep Bains is next. What would you do differently from the Ford government, and what budget trade-offs would you make to fund your healthcare plan?
Oh, I would do everything differently than the Ford government when it comes to healthcare. They made things so bad. This is an issue I hear about all the time, no matter where I travel. I started my campaign in Windsor. I just came back from Thunder Bay, and it's the same story. People cannot access family physicians. 2.5 million people in Ontario don't have access to a family physician. Wait times have doubled under Doug Ford and gone really bad. This puts pressure on hallway medicine, puts pressure on hospitals that are dealing with deficits. They have to make more cuts, which put pressure on the nurses and the healthcare professionals. The system is on life support. The investments in healthcare are so important because it's not only for people's well-being and the health outcomes, it's also important for the economy. And that's what I believe in. This is why Liberals are different than the Conservatives. Investments in healthcare are good for the economy.
Okay, thank you, Navdeep Bains. Next, we will go to Dylan Miranda. What would you do differently from the Ford government?
Early in this campaign, I had the chance to chat with Tyler Downey, the president of SEIU Healthcare. And one thing was crystal clear in that conversation. If we want the people we love to get better healthcare, we need to value our healthcare workers, PSWs, nurses, custodial staff, clerical staff, kitchen staff. They deserve better pay. They deserve better benefits. They deserve better pensions, and they deserve better training. And if we make those investments, we're going to grow our workforce, which will give us the resources we need to deliver more care in the community and more care at home. And that's what our patients want. That's what our caregivers want. And that would be my priority.
Okay, thank you, Dylan Mirando. Eric Lombardi, the question is, what would you do differently from the Ford government, and what budget trade-offs would you make to fund your healthcare plan?
We need wait times measured in days and weeks rather than months and years. And my plan is already fully costed on my platform, and you can go check it out. And solving this problem of capacity means adding capacity. That means more doctors, more nurses, more beds, and more technology, and less paperwork, less bureaucracy, and less dysfunction. We need to tie every Ontarian to a local health network. We need to invest in rapid diagnostic centers and double the number of MRIs, in particular in this province, so people can get access to care. We need to tie emergency with urgent care so people can get triaged and treated faster. We need to look at the innovative capacity of our system, do broader procurement across hospitals, and adopt technology faster. Going to the and getting a referral should not be, hey, I know a guy, I'll send a fax. That's ridiculous, and we all know it. We need to have digital health records, universal referral systems, and the ability to access treatment and care, especially for those with unique circumstances. And that's how we fix healthcare in Ontario.
Okay, thank you, Eric Lombardi. I'm going to open the floor for rebuttals and open debate. I'll kick it off with a question. This is a strategy that the Ford government has been using, but I'll ask you what you think. Should more procedures be delivered by private clinics to alleviate the pressure on public hospitals? Go ahead, Lee.
One thing I can tell you for sure we shouldn't be doing is paying 3 times as much to have those procedures done at those private clinics. I think that what I have seen is a government that is consciously eroding our public system while favoring the private system. If you want competition, keep the rules the same. We do need to turn our mind to the outcomes that we need for patients, though. We used to measure this. It used to be transparent. And we would work towards making sure people got access to the care that they need in a timely way. There are many creative ways that we could be using our system. There are many creative ways that we could be getting upstream on some of those health issues that then lead to people requiring surgery. We just need to make it a priority again. And it has not been a priority for this government.
Eric, go ahead.
The vast majority of medical operators in this province are privately run and OHIP compensated. And so that means that we need to look at what the incentive models behind how we pay for healthcare actually create greater capacity and optionality for people within the system. That does not mean privatization, but it does mean that we need to look at the competitiveness of the infrastructure that we've built and the incentives it creates to offer better care. And per private clinics, many of them have to deal with the capital cost as well as the operational cost. So we have to be clear for what our goals are, and that has to be expanding access and capacity.
Okay, let's go to Navdeep and then Dylan.
I want to be very clear where I stand on the issue of healthcare. I believe the system needs to be universal. I believe the system needs to be reliable, and it needs to be a public system. And what I mean by that is this Conservative government and Doug Ford have deliberately mismanaged and underfunded a healthcare system in order to create private solutions. That ends up costing taxpayers more money, hurts the patient outcomes, and I want to reverse that. If you look at Doug Ford's donor base, if you look at who his buddies are, it's very clear what his strategy is. He wants to privatize healthcare, and I strongly oppose that.
Okay, Dylan, go ahead.
So first I want to echo something Nav just said. The bedrock of our healthcare system is universality. And that's why when I, at the very early days of this campaign, committed to making comprehensive mental health care part of OHIP, I didn't say it should be part of OHIP for a certain age group or a certain income group. Because if we don't maintain the principle of universality, we're chipping away at that principle and we're opening the floodgates to for-profit care. And let's make no mistake, Doug Ford has already privatized our healthcare system. He has deliberately degraded seniors' care, which has created massive opportunities for for-profit providers in seniors' care. And I was in Carleton just a few weeks ago, meeting with a group of seniors. And they were scared to death of their healthcare and housing options once they weren't able to live in their home anymore. So they either wanted more home care, which Doug Ford can't deliver, or they wanted an equitable, not-for-profit seniors' care system. And I think we need to get for-profit care, private care, completely out of our healthcare system, especially when it comes to our seniors.
Okay, interesting. Stephanie Bowman, would you agree with that?
You know, Tina, we have seen this Doug Ford Conservative government focus on making his rich friends richer. one of actually my very first question in question period when I was elected in 2022 was to talk about the Bill 124 that damaged our healthcare system because it drove nurses out of the profession. It drove $1 billion in taxpayer money to private nursing agencies when we could have hired 3 times the number back in the public system. We need to make sure that we are spending each tax dollar wisely and that it is getting the outcomes that we need. We need to make sure that we're spending money not just on long-term care, but on solutions for people, seniors who want to age at home in naturally occurring retirement communities. We need to listen to the people who are working in the system because they have ideas on what we need to deliver. We know that public health care delivers better outcomes. We live longer here in Canada than in the US in large part due to our amazing public health care system. And we know that it's been crumbling under this Doug Ford Conservative government, and we know that we need to build a stronger foundation so that our healthcare system can deliver results for people across this province, from urban to suburban to rural.
We'll go to Navdeep next and then Lee.
There's another area where Doug Ford and the Conservatives have neglected. They cut funding for mental health. Mental health is health. And as Lee so eloquently put, we would make that part of the OHIP coverage. It is so important, especially for young people who are struggling in school. I've got 2 daughters, an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old, and the 16-year-old. She'd get mad at me for saying that. She just turned 16. But the point I'm making is they tell me stories about people that they know in their classrooms and what's happening in school. Kids are going through a lot. They don't have the mental health supports that they need. Families don't have the mental health supports that they need. That's why mental health is health. This is one area that I would prioritize to make sure there's appropriate funding.
Okay, and Lee, go ahead.
I did just want to pick up on the issue of agency and for healthcare workers and others. And it really struck me when I was up in the north in Hearst, actually, where in a big city, we can actually work, I think, as hospitals and other providers to drive down our use of agency nursing in creative ways within our own walls. I've been part of doing that. In the far north, it is very, very difficult to recruit people. And I would put in place some laws and regulations that would limit just how much those private agencies can gouge those remote areas. It is a ridiculous waste of public money. And it does remind me of when Bill 124 was in place, and I was a leader of a hospital with one hand tied behind my back while those agencies were recruiting our own nurses away in the middle of a pandemic. We have to think about ways that we can make it easier for people to get the care that they need.
Okay, thank you, candidates. It's time to move on to the third lightning round. So again, you'll have 30 seconds or 1 or 2 sentences to answer this question. So finish the sentence. One area where government should spend less is. Stephanie Bowman, we'll start with you. One area where government should spend less.
Making their rich friends richer. We've seen this government find solutions to problems that don't exist. We need to stop that now.
Okay, and Lee Fairclough.
I think that there's so many priorities of this government that could be different. Fantasy projects of Doug Ford are among the top of my list. Money to dig a tunnel under the 401, put a new convention center in Lake Ontario. These are random thoughts, and yet we are not prioritizing the real needs of people in Ontario.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Navdeep Bains, one area where government should spend less is?
One area where the government should spend less on are self-promotional ads. Hundreds of millions of dollars on promoting themselves and not investing in healthcare and education. That's completely unacceptable.
Thank you, Navdeep. Dylan Mirando, one area government should spend less.
I'm with Nav on this. It's ads, and I'll just say, I can't imagine a more obvious admission of failure than a provincial government spending millions of dollars to celebrate the construction of prisons. I think that's an absolute disgrace from our provincial government.
Thank you, Dylan Mirando. Eric Lombardi.
We need to stop outsourcing our state capacity to private-public consortiums that have doubled, tripled, or quadrupled the cost of building infrastructure in this province.
Okay, thank you, Eric Lombardi. We're going to move on to our next topic, education and government power. The Ford government...
All right, before we move on to that, let's take a look back, and thank you for your indulgence as I missed coming in for the previous section. I hadn't had supper yet, so I went out to make myself a little something to munch on. Apologies also for all the noise that is happening. Saw the comments there thinking to have a live mic. No, that is not a live mic. That actually is at source over there, which is really unfortunate because, again, when your party is in third place and trying to make uh, the point that it could be a government in waiting and it's hosting a debate and stuff like that happens throughout it. Again, doesn't necessarily inspire the most confidence, or on the other hand, that's not what you want. I can see some people who put a lot of time and effort organizing that debate going, no, who the hell is doing that? So that is very, very, very unfortunate for them. So in those two sections here, um, the debate finally got a little more animated and people started coming with a little more substance here, which was very good. In the section about health, we saw Lee Fairclough show why this is her wheelhouse in her answer. Very substantive, very complete, lot more energy, lot more passion to the answer than we saw in different things. Again, the hand gestures, though, man. Somebody's got to tell her about that because that will not sell. It's a block. When you're watching, it's a block. That's a pure telegenics thing. It should not be on TV because, especially with a camera, because just the close up and all that kind of stuff. But it is way, 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 way too much. um, Again, warming up a little bit to Eric Lombardi, even though he too has the telegenics thing that is not working for him. But that last answer on stuff that he would not spend money on the outsourcing of capacity that should be public service capacity to firms. That's a very good one. I'm down with that. I am down. Actually, the one that was the least impressive in all of that was Navdeep Bain's answer, just mentioning the self promotional ads, because Dylan Miranda was able to come back and say yes, the ads, and as well, when you are making ads, congratulating yourself for building a prison, you have failed. Then Mr. Grizzly would say that would be like congratulating yourself for building an ad, buying an ad to congratulate yourself for opening more food banks. You're admitting you failed when you do that. So that was a good ding. And again, second time he's come up with an all-out attack there. So he's showing that he's got some stuff. Um, you know, Stephanie Bowman not making the rich friends richer. That's okay. And that lands really right now at what's going on with Doug Ford, especially with the various scandals, the expense scandals and the Skills Development Fund and all that other stuff, the Green Belt. Lee Fairclough, just the random projects that just pop out of nowhere. Hey, let's build a tunnel. Why? Nobody asked for that. Well, let's build a spa company that we didn't properly vet, a garage. Why? Nobody asked for that, right? And of course, Navdeep Bains, like we mentioned, just the self-promotional ads. On the health issue, we did get some good stuff. We even got some good stuff from Eric Lombardi. There are some good answers there. Great answer by Dylan as well on that front. Uh, those answers that we heard from those two in particular, but others throughout that whole section, gave me that thing that I was looking for. Right, the quality with the elements, talking about various systems that are there, how they can be improved, or which ones specifically there need to be targeted, need to be addressed. Not to say, we've got to be more efficient at getting people seen earlier, but talking about specific systems that are in place and how they could be acted upon. That's what I want to see, right? To say, I don't need the 55-point plan here, but I need to know that you've thought about it at a deeper level than just say, well, here's a problem and we need a plan. And I'm going to come up with a plan, right? I want more than those surface statements. So we're starting to get some of those here in these answers in the last two rounds, starting to get. Kit Linda loved that comment about the prisons as well from Dylan here. I'm seeing there in the chat. Again, some comments Hello, Kit J. Nice to see you. Uh, Seeing lots of comments here when they're talking about healthcare, and when they're talking about housing, and they're talking about all those stuff. So they're not making, talk a lot about seniors housing, talk about senior care, talk a little bit sometimes about other groups, but nobody's talking about people with special needs and people with major disabilities. Nobody's talking about um, uh, kids with autism, for example, learning disabilities. No mention yet about kids in care at the moment. So yeah, but this is getting better. That last whole section about healthcare, had the debate started with that energy, I'd be a little more excited about this thing. But we are starting to get to see uh, certain things. And I think it was Kit Linda who made the comment. And I was thinking the exact same thing just before her comment came in with regard to Navdeep Bains here. And this is Navdeep has too many generals and not enough specifics. I've been noticing that all night long. And again, considering the amount of time he's been a federal MP, and again, history that he has in terms as an organizer with the party, I am very surprised that he appears to believe that his strategy is to show up on stage, speak eloquently and calmly and clearly, uh, but not really say much. And that might be enough. They're, um, for all of their lack of polish, if I'm looking at Lombardi, Bowman, and Moranto, for all of their lack of polish, uh, they are taking risks, bringing ideas, launching a couple of counterattacks against the Doug Ford government. Um, Mr. Baines might be playing it a little too safe on this one. All right, let's go. Right now, if I had to decide at the present moment, again, none of them particularly inspire me, but so far from what I've seen in the debate, um, I would have to score um, oh, the candidate who's being the boldest. I would have to say at the moment because it's not impressive oratory, and I haven't had chances to look into all their plans. But right now, I would say that I've been more impressed by Mr. Morando, I think, with Stephanie Bowman next. Uh, um, Lee Fairclough, because I do like some of the things she's saying, but if she could change the delivery style. Um, and then I'd put Mr. Lombardi because he's had a couple of pretty decent answers that have got me to look past the telegenics. And I would have Mr. Baines last so far uh, because um, the poised presence and clean delivery unfortunately has a little bit of vacuousness, I am sad to say, behind it. Um, and it's not enough. There are certain debates where, especially the first one, if you just show up and um, you speak like a normal human being and don't take too many risks, that's enough to help you finish in the top three, let's say, and set a basis for what's going on, especially in a debate that happens so early after the closing of the candidacy declaration period. But uh, like I said, remove the lack of polish. The other four are at least taking some chances here. So I would like to see uh, Mr. Baines realize that maybe about halfway in, that he may need to bring a little bit more of himself to the party here. All right, let's go back to the next section here. Whoops, what the heck happened there?
We're going to move on to our next topic, education and government power. The Ford government has increasingly centralized decision-making at Queen's Park, taking some power away from municipalities, school boards, and other local institutions, claiming it will reduce spending, act faster, and deliver results. When do you believe it is appropriate for Queen's Park to step in and overrule a local institution? Each candidate has 60 seconds to respond. Navdeep Bains, let's start with you.
Look, Tina, this is a very simple strategy that the Conservatives deploy. When things don't work out, it's the blame game. If kids' test scores are going down, we're going to blame the teachers. We're going to blame the school board trustees. You know, I think of my own experience, and when I started in the opening remarks, I talked about my upbringing and going through the public education system. It was very clear that I had the supports that I needed. My grade 6 teacher, Mrs. Ogino, spent time with me to set me on the right track when I was struggling. That's what we need from our education system. More resources, more support, smaller classroom sizes, so kids have an actual chance to succeed. And the reality today is this government just blames folks. And that's why half the kids can't even meet the provincial standards for math. Think about it. We've talked about AI and innovation and the disruption we're seeing in society. How are we setting up kids for success if they can't even get the basics right? That's why education is so important to me. It is the greatest equalizer we have in society, and I would make sure I wouldn't blame anyone, but provide them with the appropriate resources they need.
Thank you, Navdeep Bains. Next, we'll go to Eric Lombardi. When do you believe it is appropriate for Queen's Park to step in and overrule a local institution?
Look, I think it's important that we have proper electoral reform in Ontario, as well as looking to local leaders in order to represent their people properly. That said, we have a role in the province to set better standards for how we do procedures. If you look at the housing system, we have 440 municipalities making up effectively the same policy prescriptions. And so we have to look to aid our partners rather than bulldoze them in particular. And when it comes to things like education, we need to trust people at the ends of the system. And I do think that we've over-concentrated power, not just at the end in the Premier's office, but in the middle. And so we need to look to our systems to devolve power back to where the decisions can be best made and best accountable. And for our schools in particular, that is at the individual school level. But broadly speaking, when it comes to electoral trust, we can't just shift chairs on the Titanic. We have to look at what the problems for what they are and offer concrete solutions to solve them for what they are.
Okay, thank you, Eric Lombardi. Lee Fairclough, you're next. When do you believe it is appropriate for Queen's Park to step in and overrule a local institution?
When I look at what has happened with education, there has not been a focus that is needed on our kids. This whole, what we are seeing with this government is just a power grab. We are seeing it in the education system. We're seeing it in the conservation authorities. We're seeing it in the appointment of regional chairs. I do believe that we need to have accountability, especially for our public funds, especially when it involves our kids' education. And I have worked and reported to a board myself. I took that very seriously in the use of taxpayer money and making sure that we are giving people the health care they need. If a board is not not actually doing the right thing, they should be held accountable. But this is not what has happened here. Let's not kid ourselves. This has been a matter of Doug Ford and the Minister of Education deciding that they are going to reduce all the powers, make the decisions about education for our kids. I would change that. I would make sure that we had class sizes that met targets.
Thank you,
I would make sure.
That's time. Stephanie Bowman, when do you believe it is appropriate for Queen's Park to step in and overrule a local institution?
Tina, I would like this government to focus on doing its job, and that includes on education. We know that the school system is crumbling. I've got parents coming to me and talking about how their children with special needs can't get the support that they need. I've got teachers who talk to me about how they're just counting the days till they can retire because the classrooms are not safe, because there are not enough adults in the classroom. I visit my local schools and I hear them say, oh yeah, last year we had 1.5 special ed teachers. This fall, we'll only have 1. This government is cutting education, and our children are paying the price for that. We need to make sure that we are investing in our children's education, and that includes making sure we have enough adults in the classroom. That includes making sure that we listen to teachers about what the curriculum needs to do and how it needs to evolve to allow our children to be ready for what's next when it comes to the world of AI, and how do they cope with the mental health challenges that they're facing. We need to make sure that we are investing in our system
That's
today.
time. Thank you, Stephanie Bowman. Dylan Mirando, you're up next.
In this campaign, I've traveled to every corner of the province: the Northeast, the Northwest, the Southwest, and the Southeast. This is what I hear most often. We're willing to go to the wall for our kids. We're willing to go to the wall for our publicly funded education system. Because we know that's the right thing to do for our kids. It's the right thing to do for the economic mobility of parents. And it's the right thing to do for our economic future. So as Premier, this file is on the center of my desk. This is a non-negotiable. Smaller class sizes are a non-negotiable. Specialized supports for students with exceptionalities is a non-negotiable. Access to affordable early learning and childcare is a non-negotiable. There is nothing more important on the Premier's desk than our publicly funded education system.
Okay, thank you, Dylan Mirando. Let's open the floor for rebuttals and debate. I saw Navdeep's hand up, so go ahead.
I do not trust Doug Ford with overseeing our education system. And it's clear his plan hasn't worked, or he actually doesn't have a plan. Look at the last 8 years. Test scores are getting worse, classroom sizes are getting bigger, kids are not getting the supports that they need for mental health. And as Dylan's mentioned, like early learning and childcare, that's a no-brainer. You have a federal government, a meaningful partner, trying to make that a real solution for families. And this government has abysmally failed that as well. And it's not only K-12 or early learning and childcare. It's also post-secondary institutions. This government has deliberately mismanaged our post-secondary institutions. And that's why you're seeing kids struggling. And we saw the latest OSAP cuts and access issues, but also lack of faculty members, lack of programming. We're seeing operational budgets being cut. This is undermining our crown jewel, which are our post-secondary institutions. Education is a cornerstone of a strong economy, and I would invest more money because it's the best possible investment we could make in our province.
Okay, thank you, Navdeep. Eric Lombardi, go ahead.
We have to understand that when the middle of our systems don't execute the way that they should, we give power to dismantle the way that they work. You know, when I hear a $20,000 dishwasher replacement in the TDSB, we need to question exactly what we're doing. And I think sometimes we fail to be honest about the problems that we see in systems and leave too much leeway for incumbents to dictate the outcomes. And that's where we need greater accountability. So for instance, with grade inflation, we know there are solutions like standardized university and college entrance exams that we know are hard topics, but we need to be able to discuss them honestly so that parents can trust us again, and they know that not every school board is perfect. So we always need to lean towards making better and have proper accountability at every level where decisions are made.
I'll go to Lee next, and if you can touch on what Eric was talking about accountability for school boards, how would you hold them accountable?
Well, I mean, first of all, I do just want to come back to our kids and our schools, because this government, you know, threatened the big overhaul on school trustees, changed their roles, appointed supervisors, and passed a law that was about student achievement without actually addressing that. We need to make sure that we get class sizes down to 2 targets again. We need to invest in making sure that the right complement of educators are in the classroom to address special education. The Auditor General told us very clearly, told the government very clearly, they are not investing enough. And we need to make sure the curriculum is led by educators. That is going to be very critical. And I think that in terms of accountability, there's transparency, there's metrics, there's ways that we can hold our public institutions to account. But it's fascinating to me that these government-appointed leaders that went into these organizations came to the exact same conclusions as those school boards.
Thank you. Dylan Mirando, you next.
So to your question, when is it appropriate for provincial government to try to override elected officials? School board trustees are elected officials. My answer to that is almost never. And we can't become what we're trying to beat. We can't cherry pick some small example of a silly expense in a school board and pretend like the system is broken. It's not broken. Our school boards are functional. Our teachers, our educators are doing heroic work. And we have to value our frontline workers in the care economy. And there's two ways to do that. Yes, pay, yes, benefits, yes, pensions, but you also have to empower them. You have to listen to them. You have to show that you're trusting them. And one of the worst things that Doug Ford has done to our education system is make our educators and our vice principals and our principals and administrators feel disempowered. He has created a culture of fear and distrust that is corrosive in education and across our public sector. And that's why I would not be doing what he's doing with our school boards and our elected school board trustees.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
You know, Tina, at a recent Finance Committee hearing on the budget, I heard a representative from the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario talk about how, you know, we used to come to bargain and we were bargaining for our rights as teachers. Now we're bargaining for the kids. The kids in our system are suffering because we're not giving them the supports they need with mental health, with special needs, and with a curriculum that prepares them for what's coming next. We need to make sure that we are investing in more co-op programs, investing in home ec and shops so that kids know they've got life skills that they're lacking today. We need to make sure that they understand the changing world of media. And that starts with a government that actually believes and cares about education, a leader who believes and cares in education. And that includes things like making sure that our classrooms actually have air conditioning. I visited a classroom one day last spring, and it was about 40 degrees in that room. The children were sweating in their seats, and so was their teacher. It's hard to learn or work in that kind of environment.
Yeah, look, I agree with Stephanie. Our schools are crumbling. It is an absolute disaster to watch this. And I would say it's always about the kids. We got to focus on what we're trying to achieve here. That's always the goal is, are we setting them up for success? Do they have the confidence, the critical skills to get ahead? Is there a pathway for them? Maybe it's co-op. Maybe it's skills and trades. But whatever the path that they want to pursue, are they getting the right guidance and support? And I'll tell you why I mention that. When I was industry minister and I would go abroad and talk about investing in Ontario and in Canada, you know what it boiled down to? Our world-class workforce, our highly educated population. This is our differentiating factor. This is what makes Ontario so special. And this Conservative government has deliberately, again, ignored that. They're not investing in people. If you invest in skills, you invest in education, you attract more investment. That's what I did as an industry minister. That's what we need for a strong economy. We need more investments that creates more jobs.
Well, you can tell what this government thinks about education when they turn our higher education system into effectively a Ponzi scheme in order to pay for it.
Bingo.
And what matters is that we actually have a lot of solutions that we know. We need to restore investment according to inflation that has been lost since 2017 to all of our education systems. Education is the great equalizer in a liberal society. We don't always care about equality of outcome, but if you want people to have opportunity, it starts with education. That means putting money and resources back in schools. And then the decision-making authority, once again, back in schools. We should see more innovation out of the system. We should see more novel programs. We should see more direct to vocational training. And we should see resiliency be a part of how we teach our kids to become full adults that are capable of navigating their lives. And there's so much we can do to help this system become better.
Let's go to Lee next.
We've been focusing on this example in education, but I do think that your question, really speaks to something bigger than this. We have seen time and time again this government overreaching, whether it is on the appointment of regional chairs, whether it is on conservation authorities, whether it is on legislation where special economic zones are, just to be able to do whatever they want. Yet, where is the accountability for themselves? You look at what has happened with this recent expense scandal. Correct. MPPs that live closer to Queen's Park than I do, expensing over $100,000 in hotel fees. I mean, it is outrageous. I mean, I heard from constituents the night they rolled back the Freedom of Information laws, right when they're under an RCMP investigation, I had an outpouring from my constituents. Of course, it was coupled with the timing of the luxury jet. But, really and truly, there's this power grab, there's this override of the local perspectives. As somebody who grew up in a small town, I can tell you, they don't know all the details of Queen's Park about what needs to be happening in those small towns. I think it's time this government took a good look at themselves and held themselves accountable.
Okay, thank you, Lee Fairclough, and all of the candidates. It's time to move on to the final lightning round. So each candidate will have 30 seconds or 1 or 2 sentences to respond. Finish the sentence. One job I've had that taught me something the Liberal Party needs to learn is. And we'll start with you, Navdeep Bains. One job I've had that taught me something the Liberal Party needs to learn is.
One job that I had was being a co-chair for a national campaign, and that taught me the importance of building a strong team and recruiting great candidates. In order to beat Doug Ford, we need a strong team and a strong plan, and I have experience doing both.
Okay, thank you. Eric Lombardi, one job that you've had that has taught you something that the Liberal Party needs to learn.
When I was in high school, I used to ref soccer, and what I learned is that if you maintain order properly, you can get a team to work effectively.
Okay, thank you, Eric Lombardi. Lee Fairclough, one job you've had that taught you something the Liberal Party should learn.
As an executive at a hospital, there are so many important roles that people play just to make sure that we can deliver the care that we need to. As I've come into politics, this is such a team sport, and it's really recognizing that we need to invite people in, hear their voices, and make sure that everybody can be part of the change.
Stephanie Bowman, one job that you've had that taught you something the Liberal Party should learn.
Tina, my service on the board of the Bank of Canada taught me how important the economic institutions are that people rely on for our prosperity and opportunity. And we need to make sure, as Ontario Liberals, that we are focused on delivering an economy that everybody can contribute to and can benefit from.
Okay, and finally, Dylan Miranda, one job you've had that you've learned something the Liberal Party could learn.
No surprise here. My job's working for 2 premiers and a prime minister, where I got to contribute to extraordinary Liberal teams that knew how to win and knew how to govern.
Okay, thank you, candidates. It's time for our final segment, Ontario's economy. Ontario's economy is deeply tied to the United States and
All right. So let's take a little look back at that section. One of the better sections of the debate, actually, I there are a couple of sections I have to admit that I'm listening to the debate and I'm drifting off. This one, I didn't as much. There was some meat on the bone. There was a lot of substance there. Loved, so did Kitlinda's, Dylan's answer with regard to the school boards and what they would do here. Like Kitsasi liking the answer about trusting educators with regard to that. Um, Kit Femboy Aliens is saying here Lombardi is doing better than I thought he would. Same here. Same here, actually. And getting better as the night is going. That last answer to that quick round question about being a coach in soccer team and how to bring people together to reach a specific objective was a knock it out of the park kind of answer there. Like that. Stephanie Bowman and of course Dylan going to their actual, big elements in their career. Bowman as being a member of the board of the Bank of Canada and not going to the usual thing about how important it is to run a solid economy so that we can pay for stuff like this. She went to brought it to another level that was still institutional and serious politician, but slightly more creative. Just a slight angle on that that shows that even though she sounds a little bit like a typical politician, can see the world in slightly different ways than one would expect, which is not a bad thing in this particular situation here. Um, yeah, watching this, Kit Linda and Saucy, I think, making some good points with regard to Lee Fairclough. Definitely, if you were listening to this on the radio, she would be coming across much better to you than she does. The person who is coordinating her campaign really needs to talk to her about telegenics because the ideas are good and the content is good. But if you're, yeah, you would probably be more impressed with her if you were without the visuals on this one than with. But um, like I said, when it comes to content, when it comes to ideas, particularly when you get to health and education, which are the core competencies, very, very, very solid. And again, you can tell that she's thought about it, and you can tell that some of the things were her motivations for entering politics in the first place. Um, again, getting better as the evening is going. I still would like more personality, and I would like more energy and more excitement. It's like you're running to become the leader of the political party, and according to polling, you actually probably could have a fairly good shot at being the next premier. Just show me you want it, man. Show me you want your job. You want the job. Show me you're excited about the job. Show me you're excited about the opportunity and the prospect to be able to enact your plans. Right? Kid J, I think Tina should have run for the leadership. Sometimes. Love her reporting. Yeah, she is very good. She's indeed very, very good. And a little bit of news here from Uncover 36 people banned from the Nova Scotia legislature for protest over budget cuts. Okay, interesting. All right, so let's get back to the last section of this debate, and let's hope that we finish this in style. All right, just go back a second here so we get to the full question from Tina Yazdani here, and let's see what the final set of questions for the evening are to be.
To win and who to govern.
Okay, thank you, candidates. It's time for our final segment, Ontario's economy. Ontario's economy is deeply tied to the United States, and Doug Ford made his response to U.S. tariffs a central part of his re-election campaign last year. What did he get right that Liberals missed, and how would you have responded to Ontarians' concerns about the U.S. tariffs? Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. Lee Fairclough, over to you first.
I think it's really important that the Premier of Ontario is looking to restore business investment, productivity, and confidence for investors. And that will happen by reducing some of the friction and uncertainty. And I would say that Doug Ford's fantasy projects do nothing to help that. I would build things faster. I would make sure that we focus Ontario procurement. You asked about something good that we did. We did pass laws that started moving in that direction to make sure that we were procuring within Ontario. And we need to modernize our growth around AI, around electricity, and around precious minerals. We have so much strength. When I was in the North, I saw it in mining, in forestry, a $51 billion agriculture sector. We can do so much more locally in Ontario, and the Premier needs to lean into that strength. The government also needs to be a partner to municipalities and communities so they can recruit the talent that they need to create strong economies. I would also reverse the decisions of Doug Ford, who canceled all the green energy projects.
Time. Thank you, Lee. We'll go to Dylan Mirando next. Dylan, what did Ford get right that the Liberals missed, and how would you have responded to Ontarians' concerns about U.S. tariffs?
Following my time in government, I worked in the part of the private sector that makes stuff. I was on the Canadian leadership team for one of the world's oldest and largest manufacturers. And the reason a company like that operates in a jurisdiction like Ontario is predictability. Predictability of government decision-making, predictability of talent. And that's why we need to get past the chaotic flip-flopping of Doug Ford. We need to remind folks that Ontario is being led by the same steady hand that stabilized the economy in the Great Recession. Ontario is being led by the same steady hand that stabilized the economy during COVID. Liberals aren't left-wing. We're not right-wing. We're hard-working problem solvers who roll up our sleeves and get the big stuff done. Yes on healthcare, yes on education, and yes on the economy.
Thank you, Dylan Mirando. Eric Lombardi, you're up next.
Well, what they got right is that they talked about it and focused on economic security and job protection as the focus of their campaign. But what we also need to recognize is that economic security is about being able to sell to the world what it needs and cannot get elsewhere. And so we should avoid the protectionist impulse and look what our extraordinary advantages are in this province. We've got talent, we've got land, we've got incredibly complex industry. We have a major potential role to play in the future of robotics. AI was invented here. We can scale IP, services, and goods and sell to the world. And in doing so, we can bring back the best value-added jobs to Ontario. We can tax that efficiently and fairly, so we can provide a level of human welfare befitting of an advanced society. Taiwan doesn't protect its interests because we like the Taiwanese. Their interests get protected because they are critical to the semiconductor supply chain. And so Ontario, if we want to navigate the future risks of a multipolar hegemonic world, we need to have security through great economics.
Thank you, Eric Lombardi. Navdeep Bains, you're next.
Well, Tina, I've dealt with Donald Trump in his first term as industry minister. And I can tell you very clearly that I fought hard for protecting the automotive sector. I can also tell you that we need to be unified. There'll be no separation between myself and the other premiers and the Prime Minister when it comes to defending Canada's interest. But we got to focus on what we can control. I just came back from Thunder Bay. Why haven't we twinned Highway 11 and 17? Why haven't we twinned Highway 69 and completed that? I mean, these are enormous opportunities for us to control our own destiny by investing in infrastructure that would allow us to take advantage of the North. The North should not be an afterthought. The challenge is that this premier likes to play this game regarding Donald Trump, but is not making the investments that he needs to. I've got a track record, and I would work with my federal colleagues to take advantage of market access to help our businesses to create more local jobs as well.
Okay, finally, we'll go to Stephanie Bowman. What did Ford get right that the Liberals missed, and how would you have responded to Ontarians' concerns about U.S. tariffs?
Tina, as the finance and trade critic for the Ontario Liberal Caucus, I have been laser focused on exactly these kinds of issues. Ontario can be a powerhouse, but under this government, we've actually been a laggard on the Canadian economy. We've dragged it down. And we know that if we diversify our economy, we can create jobs and wealth for people across this province. Recently, I was at a greenhouse in Leamington. We can be a powerhouse in agriculture like that greenhouse farmer is doing if we're investing in things and making sure that our grid is ready to take those kinds of investments. We know that we can draw tourists here. You know, the Tourism Association has been asking for a few $1 million to do some advertising outside of Ontario to draw in tourists here. We can be a superpower in energy because we've got the talent and the resources to do that. But to do that, we need a leader that understands the economy, that understands how business works and how to partner with businesses, and that leader is me.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie Bowman. I'll open the floor to debate, and go ahead, Dylan Mirando.
So 2 points. First, I want to echo something Nav said. The North is the future of our economy. Investing in the Northwest and Northeast in this province is the difference between modest economic growth and major economic growth. So I believe that we shouldn't be putting a single dollar into transportation infrastructure in Toronto until we have twinned Highway 69 and Highway 17 and Highway 11. The second thing I want to say with respect to Trump is that the reason Doug Ford can't beat Trump is because he wants to be Trump. He is a grandstanding bully who doesn't believe in the value of public services. He doesn't believe in the value of publicly funded education. He doesn't believe in affordable and accessible post-secondary education. And as Nav said, if I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump or anyone else in an economic war, the thing I want more than anything is the most talented workforce in the world. And to get that workforce, we need publicly funded education and affordable and accessible post-secondary education.
Okay, and just picking up on a point you made, when the problem is fundamentally a federal trade issue, where does the province's responsibility begin and end? Go ahead, Lee.
I think that what we have seen is the Prime Minister is out there trying to do the work for Canada. And I believe in our federation, our premiers They need to be a part of Team Canada in a real way, not actually running an ad just at a time that's going to run upstream to the goals of what we're trying to achieve as a country. But the Premier of Ontario, and this is how I would be a collaborator with the Federation, but we then also need to make sure that everything is working here for Ontario, getting the jobs we need, and also prioritizing those things that are going to keep people well, keep people getting their education, and our future generation ready for economic prosperity.
Okay, thank you, Lee. I'll go to Navdeep next.
Look, Lee's right. It's about jobs. That's what we got to focus on. When I was in Windsor, Tecumseh, and speaking to the tool, dye, and mold industry there, I asked, what makes you so successful? What makes Windsor, Tecumseh the envy of North America when it comes to investments there? Why do companies come to Windsor, Tecumseh? And the reason was very clear. Top-notch engineers, designers, machinists. Investments in people allow us to create the opportunity to get more people and more companies to come here. That's what we got to focus on. Doug Ford likes to talk about Donald Trump, knowing full well that he can abandon his responsibilities and obligation on education, on skills development, and investing in small businesses. He does that time and time again, and that's why I'm running, because there's a sense of urgency. We got to turn things around.
Okay, Stephanie next.
Tina, we've got a premier right now who on one hand talks about opening up borders with the rest of the country, and then on the other hand puts out a Buy Ontario bill. He's confusing our business leaders and he's confusing the public. Where are his priorities? We need to be investing in industries today that can create jobs for people. We need to be investing in our small businesses. We know that small businesses under this premier are closing at a faster rate than they are opening. And that's actually hurting jobs for young people too. So investing in things like a youth career fund that would give people their first jobs and allow them to get ahead to prosper so that they don't go south of the border. You know, my daughter's an engineer and studied business, and many of her friends are going to the US because they see greater opportunity there. We need to make sure that we have stronger foundations in our public institutions so that young people know that they can build their lives here in Ontario.
Go ahead, Lee.
The one thing that I really observed at Queen's Park this year as we had different groups coming to meet is that they were trying to get access to some of the resources that were going to allow them to retool and reinvent in industries. I think about the agricultural sector, a $51 billion sector. Right now, we should be thinking about our food sovereignty. And I have released a policy that covers a whole range of issues. But at the core of it is that we need to grow local, we need to process local, and then we need to encourage it buying local. Farmers and others have been asking this government for the kind of supports and even loan guarantees to start young farmers off on the right track. This is the kind of moment when a provincial government should be looking to help all of these local economies, not hinder them.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Eric next.
I think what we're missing here is that you can't create a better economy from the top down. The government needs to focus on the inputs to a healthier economy, the efficient movement of people, goods, ideas, talent within an ecosystem. And what we miss a lot in Ontario is the importance of how we do things and not just what we're doing. If you look at how we build infrastructure, for instance, we do it as one-off and project-based instances. We need to think about our systems like a manufacturing process so we can invest in the fundamentals so that the people of Ontario can drive innovation, that they can take risks and create jobs. And when we talk about new subsidies and new programs, we have to remember that we're taxing either the people or the future in order to pay for that. And that destroys jobs as well. And in this moment of global uncertainty, we have to resist the impulse to become protectionist, because that means that our industries don't compete, then they don't innovate, and then eventually they lose out. We have to focus on the fundamentals of our economy if we want a strong foundation.
Okay, thank you. Navdeep Bains, last word to you.
Look, speaking of fundamentals, one issue that we haven't discussed is working with Indigenous people and Indigenous communities. I was speaking with Jeff Kopenauts, he's a Anishinaabe and from the Ojibwe First Nation of the Onegaming. And he was telling me that when he's dealing with proponents on economic development opportunities, there's like, here's a document, sign it. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's got to be meaningful engagement to truly unleash that potential as well. And Doug Ford has been missing in action when it comes to that level of engagement.
Okay, thank you, candidates. It's now time for closing statements. So each candidate will have 90 seconds.
All right, so before we go into closing statements, taking a look at what was said in those past two little sections. Kat, I agree with you about the question. What did Doug Ford get right that the Liberals missed in the last election? That was a really tough question because that was also it was a personality question, but it was also can you keep it real question. And of the five, only one did answer the question. That was Eric Lombardi. He said what the Liberals didn't have an economic and job security focus in the light of the threat that was coming from the United States. That was the thing that Doug Ford got right, that the other parties got wrong. There's other things mentioned, interesting, like, Lee Fairclough built things faster, and partner better. But how? Again, how? These apple pie motherhood type statements are very nice one like this, but again, you need to give more. Uh, Dylan in that one talked about business needing predictability versus the chaos that Doug Ford is offering, which was great, but that's not an answer to the question that what did Doug Ford get right that the Liberals missed in the last election. It's a valid point, just not for this question, right? Navdeep Baines talking about, when he was minister federally, that he's dealt with Donald Trump before. Well, that's nice, but that's not the question. Nobody asked you what was your experience in being able to deal with Donald Trump. It was asking what did Doug Ford get right that the Liberals missed. So talking about your experience dealing with Doug Ford does absolutely nothing on that question. And what was really interesting from Navdeep Baines is that even though he's mentioned that, he's sounding a bit like Doug Ford when he's talking about twinning highways and building more roads and that type of stuff. Right? Stephanie Bowman, again, I don't think attempted to answer the question, had some interesting things to say about agriculture and those types of things, but not answering the question about what Doug Ford did right. And when somebody asks you a question of that kind in a debate, say something nice about your opponent or to give your opponent some credit. It always comes off worse when you either don't answer or you do one of those things. Well, was something like positive I could say about my opponent is that they're a good father, or that they really love their children. It's like broken clock syndrome. They got at least one thing right. Right? You had a general election and they secured a third majority and you ended up in third place again. Clearly, they caught something that you missed. Be honest. We all have eyes, we all had ears, and if we voted in that election, we know how it went down. Just be honest. Say where you messed up, or say where they got it better than you did. Eric Lombardi was the only one who was able to do that. They started talking about the economy, and again, right, it's very nice that to have Dylan say that the North is the future of our economy. But then what? Lee Fairclough talking about being on Team Canada in a real way, and not going off and doing some ads, a little dig on that Doug Ford Super Bowl World Series ad. Navdeep Baines, again, just platitudes. Not an interesting. Stephanie Bowman, again, not too much in there, but mentioning certain things like investing in youth career funds and stuff like that. So again, presenting some new ideas, and then a lot of focus on agriculture stuff. Which is very nice because agriculture usually gets short shift in a debate, but it seemed like people went into talking about agriculture as being representative of the Ontario economy, and or about the only thing that needs to be worked on, and obviously not insufficient. And Navdeep Baines, right at the very, very last minute, being the only person that mentioned anything about Indigenous people on the educational front. We did hear a couple of words about people needing extraordinary or additional help, but we didn't really get that deep into it. All right. So again, kids and cubs, very interested before we get into the final statements. If you have a top 5 ranking, please put them in the chats. I would love to know what you're thinking after seeing this much of the debate, almost all of it. How would you rank the 5? If you had to vote tonight, who would get your vote? let's finish this off, taking a look at the final question here, or the final statements.
And Dylan Rando, we will start with you for your closing statement. Go ahead.
Something went wrong there. Bring this back. I have no idea why the image just magically vanished from the screen, but let's see if we can bring it back. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, Dan fan.
Dylan Rando, we will start with you for your closing statement. Go ahead.
We are in the fight of our lives. And we're not going to win if we're fighting at half strength. We're not going to win with a premier that's writing off entire regions of this province, entire sectors, entire classes of workers. We're not going to win with a premier that doesn't believe in the value of public services. So we need to change. And we need to get back to doing what Liberals do best, investing in people and investing in communities.
Okay.
Now, I'm not suggesting that we should take a step backward. What I am saying is that there are a generation of Liberals who have served our party in the trenches, in government, who are ready to step up and take the torch of leadership. We aren't running to deliver a one-election strategy. We're running to deliver a four-election strategy. Win, then win again and again and again. That's what I'm signing up for. I hope you will too.
Okay. Thank you, Dylan Rando. Navdeep Bains, you're up next.
Thank you very much, Tina. I just want to start off where I began, which was talking about my parents and the opportunities afforded to them. They came here with very modest means, and they were able to succeed because this province afforded them the opportunity to succeed. I had those same opportunities as well growing up. But the reality is, my daughter's generation, they don't have those same opportunities. Those opportunities are disappearing. Je comprends, la situation est très, très difficile pour beaucoup de gens partout, les Ontariens, l'Ontarienne. And that's why I want to make sure that we have solutions that help people get ahead. That's the way this deal is supposed to work. If you work hard and you're falling further behind, that's not the way this province is set up. We have to turn things around. There's a real sense of urgency I have, and that's why I'm running, to make sure that the decline that we're seeing in our economy, in healthcare, in education, even in public safety is reversed. I want to focus on solutions. I want to work hard. I want to make sure that we are very clear to the people of this province that we're going to do everything we can to earn their trust. And it starts with the Liberal Party, rebuilding the party, engaging the commissions, engaging the grassroots, finding great candidates, and putting forward a very comprehensive team and plan that will be a viable alternative to Doug Ford and send a very clear message that Ontario can lead again.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Navdeep Bains. Lee Fairclough, your closing statement.
It's time for serious government that is a partner, not a problem. Voters are looking for Ontario Liberals to be that partner for them. Current government, with Doug Ford and the Conservatives, is a disaster. They have forgotten about you and the challenges that you face. People are hungry for change, and you won't find anyone more different than Doug Ford than me. I've led a hospital. I know what policy looks like on the ground. I'm the mom of teenage boys and the daughter of aging parents, and I've played championship rugby for Team Canada. I have turned a seat in Doug Ford's backyard from Tory blue to Liberal red. And we need to do that in every part of this province. And we need to do it because it is urgent. People need access to the care that they need, and education to support our children's future. And they need us to make sure there's good jobs and to stop and lower the worry around the cost of food. And we need an economy that works in all parts of this government. Ontario's best days are ahead. Les meilleurs jours sont à venir. It's time. We can make this happen. Let's join together, and as Ontario Liberals, let's get back out on the field.
Okay, thank you, Lee Fairclough. Eric Lombardi, your closing statement.
We are choosing more than a leader for our Ontario Liberal Party. Ultimately, each of us is asking you and then Ontarians to entrust us with power to make decisions that affect your life and govern. And so each of us has the obligation to ask an important question. Why should you trust us? Now, there will always be flowery language in politics, but who really understands the stakes for Ontario in this moment? Who's really putting forward a vision to restore an attainable middle-class life? Who has demonstrated the knowledge to help Ontario navigate the technological and economic changes that are ahead? And who has been the most transparent about the trade-offs and hard choices that meaningful change will require? That candidate is me. Look, I know my proposition here is audacious, but I believe in you, the people of Ontario, and the potential of this province with all of my heart. And I am asking you to take a chance on generational change because I believe that together we can build a better future for Ontario and leave a legacy that future generations will be proud to inherit. So if you want bold leadership, vote for the candidate taking the most risks. If you want vision, vote for the candidate putting forward the most ideas. And if you want to win, vote for the candidate doing the most to expand our current party's tent so that we can win against Ford. Thank you so much, and let's own the future together.
Okay, thank you, Eric Lombardi. Stephanie Bowman, our final candidate, your closing statement.
I want to thank our members for your commitment to our party, and I want to thank all of those who have taken time out of their evenings to watch tonight's debate. We need more of that kind of engagement as we work on rebuilding our party to be ready for what's next. I also want to thank all the candidates here tonight for their commitment to our province. We might have different opinions on the best path forward, but I think we all agree that a stronger Ontario starts with changing the Premier in the Premier's office. J'espère que nous sommes d'accord que ce qu'on a besoin, c'est a stronger foundation for our party and for our province. That means building a strong and resilient economy that works for everyone, that we can all contribute to and benefit from. It means making sure everybody has the opportunity to live their best life, to reach their full potential. And it means leadership that puts people first. That's the approach I've taken throughout my career, bringing people together, making difficult decisions, and putting in action a plan that can be delivered upon to get real results. And it's the approach I will bring to our party and to our province if I'm elected leader. And looking at all the challenges that we've talked about tonight, we need all the people on this stage to help us win against the Conservatives in the next election. I hope they will all stand up and be a candidate in the next election. But first, we have to make sure that our party is ready. We have to make sure that our members are empowered, that we've got a strong foundation so that we can win. I'm ready to do that work, and I'm looking forward to connecting with more of you in advance of the vote on November 21st.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie Bowman. Thank you to all of the candidates for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone watching and to everyone who submitted questions. We did receive a lot of questions. Many of those submissions will be carried forward to future debates, and there's more to come in this leadership race. Candidates have until September 7th to convince Ontarians to join the party or renew their memberships. Members can vote for a new leader between November 9th and November 20th, with the results announced on November 21st. Thank you again for joining us, candidates, and thank you to everyone watching.
All right, there. They did show us a shot after the debate to see how the candidates were interacting with each other. That's a moment I always like to look at. So I see if I can learn something about them through that. Final statements again. Dylan, good final statement. There was more energy, more passion there than there was in the beginning. I like to see it. He kind of added a little to drive it home again, but still not overall enough in terms of passion there on that. Navdeep Bains talking about reversing the decline again, but again, just not not feeling it from him. And I'm actually really, really disappointed again, given all of this experience and everything. I expected to be more impressed. Lee Fairclough, a lot more personality and drive in that final answer. Kit Kat, was there saying, she was holding onto the podium at first, and I was actually in the process of writing that when she was there. I was going, "Oh, she started so well." So I guess we both noticed that. But in that one, at least the hand gestures were a little more subdued and tailored to what she was saying, but finished stronger. Eric Lombardi, again, also, there is a bit more passion there than there was throughout the debate, but it's like so many of them just have a level that's so down here as their basis that more passion at the end um, is a relative term, but none gave me that, you know, yeah, it's time to take down Doug Ford. Rally me. I'm going to go and get myself a membership tonight so that I can vote for one of you. Didn't get that. I didn't get that. Stephanie Bowman had a decent answer and even tried to add some French in there, but the delivery, okay, your final statement, you need to nail the delivery on that. It's the last impression you leave people with. And it did land as a result of that. Got Linda M saying that Stephanie will make a good cabinet minister, but that's about it. Get Cat going. Bowman is better winging it, not scripted. Kit Linda, no question on the environment or specifically on Indigenous relations. I hope there will be another debate to address that. Absolutely. Kit J asking, were they given the questions in advance? Normally in a debate, nobody is given questions in advance, but sometimes they are given general topics. We're going to be talking about the economy, immigration, crime, and trades. So, prepare, research everything you can on that, develop all the positions you can on that, and then show up to the debate. So usually questions are not given in advance for this. Again, with regard to Eric Lombardi at the end, vote for the person's taking the most risks and being most audacious. Yes, that's a case you could make. But if you're going to be audacious, be audacious. Right? There's a lot of comments about the suit selection. Don't be just audacious on your suit selection. Don't be just audacious on the elements that you're going to talk about. He was very comfortable talking about tech and technology, as we saw in some previous answers, because that's the background he comes from. Just like Fairclough was very more comfortable, and you could see it more visibly when she was talking about health and healthcare, because that's the area she's come from. Bowman's very, very comfortable when she's talking about economics and finance, because again, that's the part she's coming from. And Navdeep Bains can speak very well about being a constituency representative and party organization. And Dylan can speak to you a lot about strategy and issues management, and uh, finding the issues that connect and putting those first and foremost forward, and explaining those, because he was working in that type of capacity for people who have been in high positions of leadership before. So a lot of people obviously talking to their strengths, which is what you should do in a debate. But there's a few of them. Like I said, there's about three. Eric, Dylan, and Lee, when they were talking about things that were really in their wheelhouse, you got to see them a little more relaxed, and got a bit of a sense of who they are. Kids and Cubs, I'm looking for your top fives if you've got more. In this one, how important was it that there was very little French? Not particularly important, given that it was an all English debate. It wasn't like one of the debates done with the NDP for the NDP leadership, where there was one question or two questions in French, or a question that was open that people could answer. So in this case, if anybody was speaking French, they were voluntarily adding it based on their capacity. There shouldn't have been any expectation of one, unless the Liberals are not planning to hold a debate in French at all, and therefore the only French that is going to be used is whatever people decide to proactively throw in. Unless in one of the debates there's going to be an actual question in French, and hopefully, if there is going to be just a few, hopefully there'll be more than one. Hopefully, there will be at least two, one about something important like economics or health or policy or education, and one about specifically how they plan to meet the needs of the Francophone community in Ontario. Because it would be really nice if you could speak in French to the Francophones of the province about what you intend to do for them to help promote their language and preserve their culture, at the very least, right? Um, so hopefully those will come in extra debates. I am looking here through the chat and see if I can get a couple top fives. I've seen at least three of them. Hopefully, more of them will come. Kit Saucy has Lee Fairclough as her top pick, Dylan as her second, Stephanie as her third, Navdeep as her fourth, and Eric as the fifth. Going down the list here. Let's see, is that just one of them? Okay, maybe I have to go back further. Okay, what's here? I think they should do a debate in Ojibwe. I would love to see that. I don't think that there would be anything much more than the candidate that was most able to remember without looking down on notes. Good evening and thank you. They might suffer after that, unfortunately. Let's see what else do we have here, because I know three of you for sure sent in top five. So let's see. I maybe need to go back. Okay, so Kit Kat, we have a Dylan in first place with one, Stephanie second in another one, Lee third, Eric fourth, and Navdeep five. And then we have another vote here. Dylan first, Lee second, Stephanie third, Eric fourth, Navdeep fifth here. And do we have any others coming in? No, nobody else want to give us your top five? All right. If I had to give my top five, I would also say Dylan. I am going to move Lee up to my second spot. Assuming doing the I did not see her, I only heard her thing. Because the quality of the answers, even though the hand on the cloth thing is off-putting, the quality of the answers were good enough. However, the hand thing needs to be addressed because people won't tune in long enough. They won't tune in long enough for that. So it needs to be addressed. So if that can be addressed, Lee second. If it cannot, fourth. But I will do Dylan, Lee. I'm going to put Eric third. I'm going to move him up from fourth because I find he finished just a little more strongly, and Stephanie Bowman did not. So yeah, my top five: Dylan, Lee, Eric, Stephanie, and Navdeep. So based on those who have put out their top fives, if we were doing ranked voting at the moment, I believe that Navdeep, very surprisingly, would be the first voted off Dam Fam Island in the Ontario Liberal leadership race. Considering that he is supposed to be a front runner, remember we had those questions about the misconceptions where Dylan said, misconception about him is that he is going to finish last because, he is the political backroom person, doesn't have the most outward visible presence and name recognition, and Navdeep Bains go in the opposite end of the spectrum, that I'm the front runner. Sir, nobody thinks you're the front runner after tonight. That's for sure. Might be the front runner in organizing and fundraising, because he's very good at that. But in terms of selling yourself and showing that you're the visionary that has ideas of where Ontario needs to go, you see the path, come follow me. Did not see that. Did not see that tonight. I have a feeling that Dylan might be quite surprised at the attention that he's going to get. He might find a couple of people backing him. Like I said, good answers, I just need them delivered in a style um, that gives me the sense that he's going to be a constituency MP and not a party backroom guy. It's the mode from which he is speaking. If he can get into candidate mode rather than a backroom guy who now is trying his chance at his hand at being a candidate mode, but actual connecting with people, candidate mode, he has some potential there. He has some strong potential there. Lee Fairclough, I have a feeling, would be um, an extremely effective campaigner if she came knocking to your door and you were having a one-on-one conversation. I have a feeling that she would be very engaging and knowledgeable of issues, and you would be able to have a decent conversation and have that feeling that you felt heard. It's a sense I get. But telegenics, when it comes to politics, they're almost everything. They're almost everything. They alone don't necessarily win you a job, although they can. They can go a long, long way, but they will certainly cost you if you don't have them. There's no doubt. They will cost you. So she does need to work on that. The leader of the party does have to show that they can raise money. That's where Navdeep Bains has a big, big edge. I would suspect that perhaps Dylan would have a decent edge on that one. But Bains definitely, if anything, would be the one expected to have, based on experience, the number one slot on that. He just has so many connections with that. Stephanie Bowman, like is said here in the race and in the chat, wonderful person. Again, also have a feeling one-on-one would be very warm. But I have a feeling you probably would be a star minister. For sure, a star minister that you can give a file that she's familiar with, and you probably wouldn't have to follow or supervise all that much or offer all that much guidance. But yeah, I don't, I think that there might be, unless she can come up with a very strong cost of living package that is economically sound and use her economic skills, sort of like be a former member of the board of the Bank of Canada who actually has a heart, right? A banker with a heart. We said that about Jean-Yves Duclos at the time when Trudeau was prime minister, and he was making the case for childcare and all of those types of things, right? A banker with a heart. So if she could show that, take some policies there, building a strong economy so that we can do more to help the vulnerable, and then showing that she understands the economics of being vulnerable and speaking about how you can use your expertise in the economy to help the vulnerable while maintaining a steady ship. And I think, like I said, there's a path forward for her on that one. Lombardi, I'm getting the sense, is probably the most red Tory of the candidates, but also speaking actively about reaching out, growing the tent, and reaching out to maybe some progressive conservatives who are souring on Doug Ford and wouldn't mind an Ontario Liberal Party that's a little more pragmatic, a little more in the style of the Mark Carney Liberal government in Ottawa. I think he's trying to bring about that. You can tell in some of his answers that he does think a lot about process and evaluation and things of the sort, which are very critical to have good programs. So I was, based on what I've been reading about him before, I was much more surprised and impressed with him. There is a telegenics issue with him, not in terms of body posture or whatnot. But in where he is in his voice, where he speaks, head voice, chest voice, from the belly, where he is in his voice when he is speaking. And there is a little bit um, something to the resting face uh, that is not welcoming, I would say, in terms of uh, which can be changed. It's just um, you know uh, there's a way to look like you're dealing with an issue seriously that doesn't make you look like you are also in a little bit of pain. This is how I will put it. There, some I would recommend some time practicing lines in front of a mirror or having friends video tape you and then rewatching it so that you see what you look like. And you can maybe practice a couple of things different ways of uh, of delivering that that might be slightly more animated and give off more of a friendlier tone. Uh, those would be, and this, yes, Stephanie. I think I did. I think I went through everyone there. So those would be my things. I have a feeling, um, clearly, no winners, no front runners. Nobody ran away with this. Like I said, on reputation alone, Navdeep Bain is probably still the front runner. Probably didn't do damage to himself. He wasn't, he didn't have an implosion. But if he's not gonna go beyond the general statements and the platitudes, I don't know why he's there. I just don't. You don't have that much time in politics as he does and want to run for a position like this and not have ideas and plans concretely of what it is that you would like to do. Just, there's got to be more than that. There's got to be more than that. With his experience, there has got to be more than that coming from him. All right, Kits and Cubs, if you've got any last minute opinions that you would like to put on the record for the show, please leave them in the chat here. And I'm going to take a last little look at some comments from the kits here and see if there's anything else I need to read into the record. Kit Linda saying that Dylan and Lee are very close in her list. There you go. Jay Crick saying raising money and running a province are two totally different things. Exactly. You can be the most wonderful outreach person, have all the gregarious skills and everything, and the charm that is required to talk to people that are already in a field of interest that you share and get them to open up their wallets and not have the judgment and discernment that is required, or issues management skills that is required for governance. Right? Some people are better as the face of an organization, and some people are better as the person that's holding the organization up from behind and building the scaffolding. Everybody has different skills that they bring, right? The person in your organization that happens to be extremely skilled at drafting bylaws, chances are they're not going to be the most dynamic face of your party, right? Doesn't mean that both are not vital, right? But think of it as a restaurant. Um, uh, the person who's your greeter, maybe you want them to have slightly more sunshiny personality than other people on the team. Just saying. But Linda says the leader of the party does have to show that they can raise money. Yes, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be the one that's organizing the events or whatnot, but at least show that they can be enough of a draw and have the people skills that are such that people want to come up and talk to them and find them engaging. Right? Who organizes the event, picks the dates, does the logistics, and writes the cold call letter does not necessarily have to be the leader. But yes, they need to be able to show that they can raise money and work very well with the fundraising team. Um, let's see here. We'll go back here. Let's see here in the chat. Do we have anything? Linda says here, like it or not, a party can't get their candidate elected without money. That's just how it works. It comes down to how they manage that relationship with their donors. Indeed. Jay Crick saying, I'm a firm believer in fundraising caps for all parties at every level, as am I. Fundraising and spending limits. All right. Well, kids and cubs, that's the end of this special episode, live watch party of the Ontario Liberal Leadership Debate, debate number 1, before we get to voting day here, which again will start on November 9th, the voting period, and November 20th will be when the voting period ends. The November 21st is the date that we will get the results of the voting and the new leader to be announced. And again, if you live in Ontario and you do not have a membership to the Ontario Liberal Party and you would like to have one so that you can vote, so that the party can put the best possible candidate up, and that will be the representative of the party in the next federal election, in the next provincial election, that will hopefully be the one that allows us to see the back of Doug Ford permanently. Then you need to do that by September 7th. So go to the Ontario Liberal Party website and make sure that you fill out the forms that are required in order to get that membership. And hopefully here I can take a look, and maybe I can actually even find the link and put it there here. Become a member, Ontario Liberal Party. There you go. If you want to do that, you go to action.ontarioliberal.ca/f/join. And I will put the link there. Here you go. Kids in cups. Put it up. So if you're in Ontario, please, I beg you, even if you're not typically a Liberal voter, buy one. And if you want a better quality provincial election, vote for the best possible candidate. This is something that I recommend wherever you are right now. If you live in New Brunswick, and there's still time, I don't know about the dates yet on this, but register for the New Brunswick Progressive Conservative Party and vote in their leadership contest. In Nova Scotia, register to become a member of the Nova Scotia Liberal Party and vote in their leadership race. If you're a citizen of Canada, buy a membership to the Green Party of Canada and plan to vote in their leadership race. Right? Even if you never plan to vote Green, if you care a little bit about the environment, make sure that the Greens put the best candidate out there that's going to fight for the environment, because listen, they don't have to win the opportunity to become Prime Minister to be extremely effective in Parliament. Right? I may be somebody that never wanted the Greens to form government, but I believe that environment is important, and I want there to be a core faction in the House of Commons that is keeping the government's feet to the fire on it. Would I be unhappy with a parliament that had 15, 30, 40 Greens? No, I wouldn't. For that specific purpose. Right? So it's sometimes it's a case of, there are a lot of Canadians, I believe, that would turn around, like, say, for the Greens, and, I wouldn't necessarily vote for the Greens, but I'm glad they're there. Right? And you want some of them to be there. Right? You want some representation because you believe that the issue is important enough that you want there to be a core group of people that are seriously addressing it. But maybe you don't want them to be government. Right? So there's a lot of reasons to vote in provincial and federal election races, even if it's a party that's not specifically your own. If you're thinking about the bigger picture and what's in the best interest of all of Canada, This is where the real action is, right? So absolutely get your memberships there. Um, Get Linda go and see the back of Doug Ford until he decides to run for mayor of Toronto or tries to take out Polyev. And probably. Probably. You're right there. And some lovely words here, Kitlinda, going, thank you for doing this watch party. It makes these things more understandable and enjoyable. And it's more fun to watch them with other people, especially when you're a political geek. Most often you're watching this alone. You don't have anybody to share it with. So, it's always fun to have a little bit of sociable while we do the work of doing democracy. Kit J goes, thanks, Douglas. You are very welcome. It's an honor and a pleasure. Kit Saucy, yes, thank you. These are always fun and informative. Kit Kat going, thanks for this, Douglas. And Kit Saucy saying, already a member. I'm going to guess that's of the Nova Scotia Liberals to go out and vote there. But remember, you can double up. You can do Nova Scotia Liberals and Federal Greens, right? Provincial and federal. Get your memberships. And Jay going, Green Party bring talking points to the House of Commons that need to be said and heard. Exactly. Exactly. So, that's what I'm saying, right? I believe that Canadians are some of the savviest voters out there. And I do believe that there's a lot of us that even though there are certain parties for which we don't vote or we don't see ourselves voting, we are very, very happy that they are there and we appreciate the work that they do, right? And wouldn't want things to be any different. Kid Linda going, fellow political geeks, unite. Yes, all together. All right. Kids Cats, that's the end of this episode of our daily Beaver morning show nights special live watch party Ontario Liberal Leadership Debate #1. We hope that you enjoyed watching this because I love doing this for you. I love my damn Vam time. So thank you so much for spending some time with me so that we can all geek out together. After all, it is better to play with the group than to play with yourself. If you've never seen the movie Grease 2, then you don't know where that reference comes from. If you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Linda going, I'm sure PP can remember how to scoop ice cream. I don't know. He didn't do too well with that pizza. That's all I'll say. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So tell your peeps and poops all about us. And please, if you can, include a little word of your own as to why it is our content resonates with you. Because you are influencers in your own circle and people tend to listen to you. If you would like to help us, Kits and Cubs, there's 2 ways you can do that. Scan this QR code. It will bring you to our YouTube page. If you're not already there, smash with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Click the notification bell and select all so you can get word when we have some new content. And if you are watching this on your phone or your tablet less than 7 days after the live broadcast, please swipe left on the comment section to offer us some hype points. You can do that 3 times a week, and it helps smaller channels like us gain more visibility. Thank you so much for all you do to help us. And if you would like to help us in other way, because hey, I've done a double shift today and I've talked a lot, so maybe I need to be topped up on my Beaver Boistener, and maybe that's something that you can help with, damn fam, because there's very little left. All gone. It's all finished, mon zin. So if you would like to refill my Beaver cup with Beaver Moistener, you need to scan that QR code. And that will bring you to our coffee page, coffeeko-fi.com, Eager Beaver, all in one word. And there you can buy your favorite beaver a mug of hot chocolate, not only to maintain his levels, but to keep his tummy nice and warm while he's doing research to bring this show to you. Sometimes my tummy gets lonely. It needs friends. You can buy me friends. Or a cup of hot coffee, black coffee for Mr. Grizzly. And you can do that by scanning that QR code, which brings you, like I said, to the Emergency Hydration Fund at the Beaver Lodge. That's what we call it, but it's really just our tip jar at coffeeko-fi.com. Eager Beaver, all in one words. You can all in one word. You can make a one-time donation or a recurring donation that you get to start and stop whenever you want. You're never locked in. So thank you for all of your support. We get about 95 to 97% of your donations when you donate through our coffee page. There's also memberships, stickers, and super chats on our YouTube channel that you can do. And if you get one of those, we get about 70% of your donation. And again, if you're doing the buy, buy Canada, buy Canada thing, then you send us a bank transfer to our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And there, no US CE Tech Pros get a share of your money. It all comes to us, all to us. Sorry, wasn't supposed to do the evil laugh out loud. Inside voice. Okay. And so truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and it's a direct bank to bank transfer. Nothing goes to the USC Tech Bros. We get 100% of your money, and we thank you so much. Not 100% of your money, 100% of your donation. I don't want 100% of your money. Save some for you. Oh man. All right. So yeah, that's the ways that you can support us. And if you cannot support us financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can send us compliments and constructive critique. We love both, as well as guest suggestions for the interview project, questions you have about politics you would like us to answer, questions about the show you would like us to answer, and of course, your good news, which helps us with the doom scrolling. It makes it much easier to take. Let us know what's going on with you, especially if it's good, because we just love to celebrate in your joy. So send that all to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And if you're looking for us at our socials, at True Eager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, also on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, and it's also our Instagram run by Kit Uncover, who often does our clips. We have Beaver Bites on the Substack. We have the unofficial Damn Fam Discord. And of course, Beaver Bites on Substack. Lots of ways to get a hold of us and to write to us. We thank you for all the ways you interact with us. And right down here, remember, in the comment section of our YouTube page, that's the best place to write us if you want us to see what you have to say. That and our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. We do try to read absolutely everything that you post, even though we're not able to answer everyone and everything that you send us, whether it be financial or non-financial. Gets rolled back into the show to make it more fantastic and fabulous for you. So we hope that you enjoy that, and we hope that if you are supporting us, that you believe that it is money well invested, because we try to give you a lot of beaver for your buck. See what I did there? I think we need a Mr. Buck or a Miss Buck on the show. All right. That's all the donation and information stuff. Because democracy is something that you do, of course, we have the petitions and all that kind of stuff. But for this one, I'm just going to mention, since we're talking about leadership races, the party leadership races and the by-elections. Again, I'm going to go over them. New Brunswick Progressive Conservative, that's a provincial leadership race. Nova Scotia Liberals, a recently declared provincial leadership race. The Ontario Liberals, it's on right now. And federally, we have the Greens. We have 3 federal by-elections coming in for Canada. We have in British Columbia, Capilano, North Vancouver. We have in Ontario, Beaches, East York, and in Quebec, we have Chicoutimi, Le Fjord. In Ontario, we have 3 by-elections as well. And those ones are, I'm sorry, I need to take a look at them. I don't remember by heart. Scarborough Southwest, York Simcoe, and Hamilton East Stony Creek. Voting day for those will be September 3rd. And today, kids and cubs, we found out that there is going to be another federal by-election soon, because a member of the Liberal Party of Canada has decided today to step down, due to a fact, I believe, that they had a car accident some time ago, and it does not seem like um, he will be able to maintain his duties. I'm looking at for um, his name there. His name is Sean Chen. He's a Scarborough North MP. There is a bit of an image of him here. So I'm going to see if I can put it up here for you, kits and cubs. There you go. So this is the gentleman here. This is sad news because this is not the way we want to have people go. But according to Nick Murray of the Canadian Press, citing lingering health effects from a car accident late last year, Liberal MP Sean Chen said he plans to resign at the end of this week. The Scarborough North MP, who has represented the riding since 2015, issued a statement on social media on Monday saying injuries sustained in the accident left him with, quote, significant health issues which have prevented him from traveling to Ottawa as often as the job requires. Quote, after discussing the situation with my family, I've decided that it's best for me to step down as a member of parliament, Chen said in the statement. Chen was elected after serving as the chair of the Toronto District School Board. So I will have more on this tomorrow, but on tomorrow's show. But yes, another one, and unfortunately, kits and cubs. Again, this is a very sad reason. Not that he didn't want to do the job at all, just that he can't. His body just will not let him, and it is a demanding job. So our thoughts and prayer go out to him and to his family, and hopefully he can continue on his recovery and gain more functionality and stuff like that, and try to have the best quality of life possible. But this is these are reasons we don't want people to resign, but sometimes it happens. All right, that's all I got for you. So at the count of 3, kits and cubs, can I please have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock? And yeah, Jay, wow, that's terrible indeed. If I can have you say, please cue the cock. Get Linda. It's a lot more fun to play with the Beaver. Every time I think I've possibly been too cheeky, you come and tell me that I'm okay. All right, at the count of 3, may I please have a Mr. Beaver cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Let me hear you. Oh, that is the good stuff. And since you asked so nicely, here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. I will not have an Easter egg. I'm just going to say amour et bisous, and we will see you tomorrow morning. All right? Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so very much. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.